Black Cat Pastor dashing through pages. Chronicles, Gospels, prophets, sages. Leviticus, laws to pause, find phrases. Turning them corners, your spiritual mazes. Genesis to Revelation, so divine. Flip them scripts, endless grace you'll find. Songs singing sweet, unbroken lines. Hitting that rhythm, wordplay refined. Anybody in here blessed? Anybody in here blessed? Bible in 1 year, we don't rest. Anybody in here blessed? Wake up early, the dawn's light shimmers. Spiritual breakfast, soul food dinners. Isaiah's vision, Ezekiel's figures. Walk through the fire, no one limbers. Kings and judges, prophets profound. Plowing the word, no mythical ground. Verse after verse, wisdom's bound. Heavenly soundtrack, soul serving sound. Anybody in here blessed? Anybody in here blessed? Bible in 1 year, we don't rest. Anybody in here blessed? No shortcuts, all divine routes. Listen to the whispers, no room for doubt. Parables drop stronger than gold faucets. Souls hydrated from divine prophets. Study the book, change perspectives. Carefully crafted, not too subjective. A year to reflect, learning perfect. Patterns of grace that time can't deflect. Old Testament drops deep and so real. Kings and warriors, covenant seals. Split that Red Sea, divine reveal. Commandments written, not made of steel. Bethlehem birth to cross on the hill. Unfolding the never blessings, pastor with skill. Scripture flip, every verse fulfilled.
Through the word, every verse, every chapter, nothing unheard. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed. Yo, online sermons, holy vibes delivered. Spreading light, got the sinners reconsidered. Psalm to psalm, man's like a holy DJ. Flipping through scripture, repping the Yahweh. Your emotes in the chat, praising the message. Flat cap on point, teaching eternal lessons. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed. Digital pulpit, preaching like a pro. Followers grow as the faith overflow. Keyboard clicks, holy words they stick. Raining blessings down with a slick rhyme trick. Virtual congregation, united in devotion. 1 year strong, a spiritual promotion. He's a life coach with divine instructions. Streaming holiness, no room for interruption. Flat cap changed the game, new pastoral fame. Virtual shepherd, he's embracing the mainframe. In the comments, affirmatives and amens. With each Goliath tackled, faith extends. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. Yo, online sermons, holy vibes delivered. Spreading light, got the sinners reconsidered. Psalm to psalm, man's like a holy DJ. Flipping through scripture, repping the Yahweh. Your emotes in the chat, praising the message. Flat cap on point, teaching eternal lessons. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. Digital pulpit, preaching like a pro. Followers grow as the faith overflow. Keyboard clicks, holy words they stick. Raining blessings down with a slick rhyme trick. Virtual congregation, united in devotion. 1 year strong, a spiritual promotion. He's a life coach with divine instructions. Streaming holiness, no room for interruption. Flat cap changed the game, new pastoral fame. Virtual shepherd, he's embracing the mainframe. In the comments, affirmatives and amens. With each Goliath tackled, faith extends. Everybody in here blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. 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 Digital pulpit, preaching like a pro. Followers grow as the faith overflow. Keyboard clicks, holy words they stick. Raining blessings down with a slick rhyme trick.
Welcome in, everybody. welcome in. Welcome in. Repping the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit shirt today. Repping. Gotta rep that. Also, this week, been repping ReachCon. So, not neglecting anybody. Not neglecting anybody. I see those redeems there. Let me get it just a second here. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-bum. Tip of the cap to you, Galaxy. Tip of the cap, friend. Appreciate you. Appreciate you faithfully hanging out here. Even the lurks are appreciated. And a spot of tea today. We have Earl Grey. Earl Grey. I'm just thinking, how does the captain say that? Earl Grey, hot. Earl Grey, hot. I can't do his accent. I cannot do Jean-Luc Picard. Cannot do his accent. But there we go. Thank you for the spot of tea. Probably get more of that Cockney accent, maybe. But, let's go. Let's go. Yeah. So let's take a look at the fish today. I was checking on the tank with the spawn this morning. I saw nothing yet. I do have flies. That's fun because the fly larvae are in there. Little gnats is what they are that are always by the pond. So that larva is in there as well and flying around. Super fun. But no, did not see anything birthed there. So we'll have to wait and see if they hatch over the weekend or not. And maybe they did not get fully fertilized. Who knows? Wow, I thought the tank was looking better over here with the guppies, and it's looking worse. I think what I'm going to have to do is drain more of the water to replace. I've already done this week 10 gallons, but apparently not enough. Ooh, it looks like a beautiful day. Let's pan that cam around and see what the sunrise looks like. By the way, I'm probably going to start doing this in case you're wondering. It'll start this afternoon sometime. It'll start this afternoon. My other channel will be going live. Oh, I didn't do the outside. Let's peek at the outside first before I go big. Huh. They're all over. Oh, a little guy hiding behind the filter over there. They're looking all right. I will be going live sometime this afternoon with the other channel, the One Dapper Koi Pond. I need to set up a command for that so that I don't have to type it in every time. Not that it's hard to type in, but I'll be going live, and that'll be live all weekend. That's what I'm going to start doing is live weekends with the Dapper Koi Pond. So occasionally you might see me out there working on something, but you can see where the camera is aimed, and occasionally you might see someone on the beach, but the mic will not be on the beach. It'll be on the water running at the pond. Is how I've planned to do it. What I would love to be able to get is a way for you to change which screen is being viewed, and or set it on a timer that would flip through the screens. That would be pretty cool if I could do that. But anyway. Welcome in, everybody that's here. Appreciate y'all. There's a little peek at some joy for today, I hope. I did also start something new yesterday. Or no, today. Today it'll start. So, I'll have to go check it. I started doing some, let me just see. I could go show you. Can I? No, that's not it. It's on the other one. Okay. Can't do that.
I've been wrestling with changing some.
Sorry about that. Had to wait for it to play so that I could push pause. Okay. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bum. Let's get the browser window open. I don't know why it doesn't like to stay when you select it. But there we go. So we at least did get 2 Kings 1 and 2 done yesterday. So we finally finished June. And we do have some of Acts done. I just got to fill it in here. It's, you know, one of those tasks that's just ongoing. It's never complete. So being behind is no problemo. No problemo. Okay. So we're picking up in 2 Kings 3 is where we left off. So we had Elisha getting the cloak of Elijah to carry on the mantle. And they went to go look for him. The 50 prophets did. They took 3 days and wasted their time. And it's, didn't I tell you, don't go? Yep. And then there's this interesting story about a well that had death in it. So I would be curious. To do some scientific kind of research and say, what kind of contaminant might they have had in a well that would have been killed if you had put salt into that well to kill it off. So I'm not thinking E. coli would be killed off by a bunch of salt, but you know, maybe there is something that could have been, and salt is an easy thing to be able to have and to put it in there. So you get a new jar of salt. He got it, he put it in the spring, and he threw it salt in, and it was purified. So I'm wondering what it could have been, what kind of contaminant it could have been. No, it could be purely symbolic and spiritual and all of that. But anyway, Trigger Boss, welcome in. And he went up to Bethel. So that's where we left off. Okay. So we're going to jump back in to the stories of the kings, and now we have Elisha on the scene. If I accidentally say Elijah, it is going to be Elisha from now on. In the 18th year of King Great Jumpin' Jehoshaphat reigned over Judah, Ahab's son Jehoram became king over Israel in Samaria. He ruled for 12 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, but not the same degree as his father and mother. He did remove the sacred pillars of Baal that his father had made, yet he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. He did not turn from that. So he's a little more mellow than mom and dad, Ahab and Jezebel, but you know, the apple did not fall far from the trees. He's not good. Now, King Mesha of Moab was a sheep breeder. Why is there a footnote on that? The discussion of the meaning sheep breeder, go to 2 Kings 43. Okay. Thanks for the footnote. He would send as tribute to the king of Israel 100,000 male lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. 100,000, a massive number here. When Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. At that time, King Jeroboam left Samaria and assembled all Israel for war. He sent this message to King Jehoshaphat of Judah. The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you fight with me against Moab? Jehoshaphat replied, I will join you in the campaign. My army and horses are at your disposal. So notice this, if you remember, maybe you don't, that Jehoshaphat did fight with Israel in the previous chapter with his dad Ahab. He did go up. He did ask for, hey, isn't there a prophet of Israel, of God here? I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And he did fight with them, and that's when Ahab died. Let's see what happens when he fights with his son. He then asked, "Which invasion route are you going to take?" Jehoram answered, "By the road through the wilderness of Edom." So the king of Israel, Judah, and Edom set out together. They wandered around on the road for 7 days and finally ran out of water for the men and animals they had with them. The king of Israel said, "Oh no! Certainly the Lord has summoned these 3 kings so that he can hand them over to the king of Moab." Ah, interesting. I did not realize or notice. Okay, I was confusing Moab and Edom. Sorry. Edom comes along as well. So Edom is Esau's descendants. Moab is Lot's descendants. So Moab is in the north to the east of the Jordan, and Edom is in the south east of the Jordan. Okay. So he thinks, oh no, God's going to hand us over. Jehoshaphat asked, "Is there no prophet of the Lord here that we can seek the Lord's direction?" One of the servants of the king of Israel answered, "Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to be Elijah's servant." Jehoshaphat said, "Yes, he receives the Lord's messages." So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to visit him. Notice it just doesn't give the name of the king of Edom at all, and it doesn't repeat the name of the king of Israel. Just Jehoshaphat gets the repetition. Sorry, my feet are a little chilly. I'm going to turn on my little warmer down here. Yeah, I know it's summer, but cement floors are cold. Elisha said to the king of Israel, "Why are you here? Go to your father's prophets and your mother's prophets." The king of Israel replied to him, "No, for the Lord is the one who summoned these 3 kings so that he can hand them over to Moab." He's like, "I'm not going to them. I know God did this. Tell me what's up." Elisha said, "As certainly as the Lord of heaven's army lives, whom I serve, if I did not respect King Jehoshaphat of Judah, I would not pay attention to you or acknowledge you." Why is his name not getting mentioned? Because Elisha is not acknowledging him, and neither are we telling the story acknowledging him, only by, it's that dude over there, that dude. Like, we're not giving him his name. We're not giving him his due. "But now, get me a musician." When the musician played, the Lord energized him, and he said, "This is what the Lord has said. Make many cisterns in this valley, for this is what the Lord has said. You will not feel any wind or see any rain, but the valley will be full of water. You and your cattle and animals will drink. This is an easy task for the Lord. He will also hand Moab over to you. You will defeat every fortified city and every important city. You must chop down every productive tree, stopping all the springs, and cover all the cultivated land with stones." Wow, that is quite a task. Cut down every productive tree, stop up all the springs, cover the cultivated land with stones. Like, that's take that into consideration right here. Like, if you were to go, well, I have a region just north of me. Maybe you don't have a lot of fruit trees around. If you're chopping down all the fruit trees, and I don't think we're chopping down trees that aren't fruit trees, like nuts and fruits, the figs, the almonds, the pomegranate, the olive, you're chopping down those trees, food-producing trees. Not chopping down the oak and the oak tree or the maple tree, or those aren't being chopped down, I don't think. I think it's just food production. You're stopping up the springs, and you're covering the land. So the land for grain, you're throwing rocks in it. Throwing it with stones. Weird. Sure enough, the next morning at the time of the morning sacrifice, water came flowing down from Edom and filled the land. Now all Moab had heard that the king were attacking, so everyone old enough to fight was mustered and placed at the border. When they got up early the next morning, the sun was shining on the water. To the Moabites, who were some distance away, the water looked red like blood. The Moabites said, "It's blood! The kings must have fought one another." The soldiers were struck one another down. Now Moab seized the plunder. When they approached the Israelite camp, the Israelites rose up and struck down the Moabites, who then ran from them. The Israelites thoroughly defeated Moab. They tore down the cities, and each man threw stones into every cultivated field until they were covered. They stopped up every spring and chopped down every productive tree. Okay, notice in the actual battle, it only says Israel did this, not Judah and Edom, just Israel. Does that mean they're all doing it and they're just saying one, or was only Israel necessary and the other two kings don't fight? I don't know. Only Kiraseth was left intact, but the soldiers armed with slings surrounded it and attacked it. When the king of Moab realized he was losing the battle, he and 700 swordsmen tried to break through and attack the king of Edom. Okay, so they are there. But they failed. So he took his firstborn son, who was to succeed him as king, and offered him up as a burnt sacrifice on the wall. Wow. There was an outburst of divine anger against Israel, so they broke off the attack and returned to their homeland. Okay, wait. King of Moab realized. So okay. Yes, this is the king of Moab. I'm just trying to figure out why the burst of divine anger is against Israel. What's the footnote say? There was great anger against Israel. The meaning of the statement is uncertain, for the subject of the anger is not indicated. Okay. Except for two relatively late texts, the noun katsif refers to an outburst of divine anger, but it seems unlikely the Lord would be angry with Israel, for he placed his stamp of approval on the campaign. Friedman suggests the narrator obviously has a bias against the Amride dynasty, included the observation to show the Lord would not allow the Israelite king to have the undiluted victory. Some suggest that the original source identified Chemosh, the Moabite god, as the subject, and that his name was later suppressed by a conscious scribe, but this proposal raises more questions than answers. Yeah. Having it be towards the Moab god and then not having him in there and taking him out causes more problems. Okay. So they didn't quite fully do all of it that they were supposed to do, it sounds like. Get close to the end, but don't fully wipe Moab out. Now a wife of one of the prophets appealed to Elisha for help, saying, "Your servant, my husband, is dead. You know that your servant was a loyal follower of the Lord. Now the creditor is coming to take away my 2 boys to be his servants." Elisha said to her, "What can I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" She answered, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a small jar of olive oil." Okay, so this story should sound in some ways similar to the Elijah story with the widow. I've got a little flour and a little oil, and I'm going to make a meal, and we're going to die. And then the flour and the oil last for 3 years while Elijah is there. Hey, Lucis, welcome in. Now we have, I don't remember the guy, or the widow being a prophet's wife. I forgot about that part. And she goes to Elisha, "Hey, you know, my husband was a follower of Yahweh. He was devout, and he's got some debts, and the debtors are coming to take my boys." What do you got in the house? I got some olive oil. I got a jar of olive oil. He said, go and ask all your neighbors for empty containers. Get as many as you can. Go and close the door behind you and your sons. Pour the olive oil into all the containers. Set aside each one when you have filled it. So she left him and closed the door behind her and her sons. As they were bringing the containers to her, she was pouring the olive oil. When the containers were full, she said to one of her sons, bring me another container. But he answered her, there are no more. Then the olive oil stopped flowing. She went and told the prophet, and he said, go sell the olive oil, repay your creditors, and then you and your sons can live off the rest of the profit. I just love this story. It's like, can you imagine, not that tea is that valuable, but if this was like I was told to go get as many containers as I could and to pour the tea into the other containers, and I'd have that to be able to sell. Now, tea, like I said, tea's not that valuable. But let's just say, gasoline or something. I need to get back and forth to work, and all I got is a little 1-gallon container of gasoline to fill my vehicles, and I'm told to go get as many containers from your neighbors as you can and fill them with gasoline, pouring from the little container into all the others. That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. I mean, if you want to talk about equivalent, like the economy ran on olive oil in the ancient times. A lot of it did. It was necessary as a commodity. You could maybe even include wine in that as another commodity that was that important. But just that whole concept of something small being poured constantly into larger vessels and filling them until you run out of vessels to fill. I just think that's super cool. And all this story really is about having compassion. That's all it is. One day, Elisha traveled to Shunem, where a prominent woman lived. She insisted that he stop for a meal. So hospitality there. So whenever he was passing through, he would stop in for a meal. She said to her husband, look, I'm sure that the man who regularly passes through here is a very special prophet. Let's make a small private upper room and furnish it with a bed, table, chair, and lamp. When he visits us, he can stay there. So it starts out by having hospitality to someone who's traveling by. Now saying, let's go even further. Not let's just have him for a meal. Let's give him a place to stay. Let's give him a place to stay. One day Elisha came for a visit. He went into the upper room and rested. He told his servant Gehazi, summon the Shunammite woman to come here. So he did. He did so. And she came to him. Elisha said to Gehazi, oh, hey. Who just followed? NC Thanks. NC Thanks. Is that it? Is that how we're supposed to do it? Welcome in. Not sure how to do that otherwise, but welcome in, friend. Let me know if that's how you want to be called. NC? I like the thanks. Or Thaxon? I don't know. It's Nate. You just spell it weird. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out if you're trying to have something else. So it's Nathan with no vowels. Okay. How are you doing? I'm doing well. How about yourself? Glad to have you here. Welcome in. Elisha said to Gehazi, tell her, look, you have treated us with such great respect. What can I do for you? Can I put a good word for you with the king or the commander of the army? She replied, I'm quite secure. So he asked Gehazi, what can I do for her? Gehazi replied, she has no son and her husband is old. Elisha told him, ask her to come here. So he did so, and she came and stood in the doorway. He said, about this time next year, you will be holding a son. She said, no, my master. O prophet, do not lie to your servant. The woman did conceive, and at the specific time the next year, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. We are in 2 Kings 4. We're in 2 Kings 4. So we are looking at Elisha and the Shunammite woman right now, which is fascinating. She blesses him by giving him food, then blesses him by providing a room. He asked her, "What can I do for you?" She's like, I can put a word in with the king, some official, like I can speak on your behalf." And she's like, "Nope, I'm secure." So I ask a servant. A servant points out the fact she has no son. She doesn't have an heir. Her husband's old. So he says, "That's what I'll give you." Like this is just a fascinating thing. Like, to think about the prophets and the power that they have. And I think we can look at this with the apostles in the New Testament too, in a way of the supernatural power that they have to be able to do this. Now, what we don't know, or what we can't see, because it doesn't tell us, is there a conversation that happens with God in the in-between here to say, "Hey, God, can you give her?" And God says, "Sure, I will do that." Is there those things going on or not? Don't know. The story doesn't say anything like that. So it appears in the story that he has the power to just pronounce it. And remember, he asked for a double portion of what Elijah had. So maybe he just has that power to pronounce that thing. I don't know. But the power to bind up someone's womb or to give someone a child has been attributed to God as the one who can do that to this point in Scripture. We've got Abraham and Sarah. Infertility. We have, I'm trying to remember who else it was. I don't think it was Rebecca or Rachel. Oh, no. It was Rachel. Rachel had problems, and finally Joseph comes along. And so we see, and then we have Samuel's mother, and I can't remember her name. Okay. I do want to look up Gehazi, but I'm going to wait to look up his name till we get to another story. The boy grew, and one day he went out to see his father, who was with the harvest workers. You're suddenly hearing the, "I have the power." Yes, Hannah, thank you. I just couldn't think of it off the top of my head. So, the boy grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the harvesters. He said to his father, "My head, my head." His father told a servant, "Carry him to his mother." So he picked him up and took him to his mother. He sat on her lap until noon and then died. She went up and laid him down on the prophet's bed. This is a fascinating thing. Putting him on the prophet's bed. Oh, this is just, they translate it, prophet said a man of God. I actually like saying man of God, but anyway. She shut the door behind him and left. She called to her husband, "Send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys so I can go see the prophet quickly and then return." She's not assigning this task to anyone else. She's doing it herself. "I'm going to the prophet." He said, "Why do you want to go see him today? It is not the new moon or Sabbath." She said, "Everything's fine." She saddled her donkey and told her servant, "Lead on, O King Eternal." Oh, sorry, no. "Lead on. Do not stop unless I say so." So her husband's puzzled. She says, "Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, son upstairs dead, but everything's fine." This is a level of faith, I think. This is a level of faith. Random question. What do you think God has done for the people that don't believe him? Oh, God. What do you think God has done for the people who don't believe him? Are you talking presently or past? Or I mean, because like you said, has done. Well, he created them. I mean, that would be what part of what he's done. He's created creation. That's part of what he's done. There are passages that say the rain fall on the just and the unjust. So There is a level of God's grace and mercy that extends over all people, regardless of their understanding, regardless of their belief, regardless of any standing before God. God has given common grace and good to all. So if that's what you're talking about, what has He done already for them? Yeah. Also, what has He done? He's also already provided His Son for them as well, that they should be able to have a way to be reconciled to Him. So He's provided a way for reconciliation to take place. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. So that's what I was trying to say. I'm not sure if I was getting the question right, Nathan. But let me know. So saddle up that donkey and ride. We got a donkey again in the story. Just pointing it out. So she went to visit the prophet at Mount Carmel. When he saw her at a distance, he said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, it's the Shunammite woman. Now run to meet her and ask her, 'Are you well? Are your husband and the boy well?' She told Gehazi, 'Everything's fine.' But when she reached the prophet on the mountain, she grabbed hold of his feet. Weird. She tells her husband everything's fine. She tells Gehazi everything's fine. She only has the strength, perhaps, to admit it's not fine one time. And she's going to break down when she does. So she saves it. I don't know if that's what's going on. That's one way to read this, I would think. Gehazi came near to push her away, but the prophet said, "Leave her alone, for she is very upset. The Lord has kept the matter hidden from me. He didn't tell me about it." She said, "Did I ask my master for a son? Didn't I say, 'Don't mislead me'?" Elisha told Gehazi, "Tuck your robes into your belt, take my staff, and go. Don't stop to exchange greetings with anyone. Place my staff on the child's face." The mother of the child said, "As certainly as the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave you." So Elisha got up and followed her back. So he sends a servant ahead with the staff. Don't talk to anybody. Weird on the level of staff is going to do the healing. Where have we seen staffs before? I don't think we've seen staffs in Elijah. We did see staffs with Moses and Aaron. Now we have Elisha has a staff. Now Gehazi went on ahead of them. He placed the staff on the child's face, but there was no sound or response. He came back to Elisha. He told him, "The child did not wake up." When Elisha arrived at the house, there was the child lying dead. Okay, so the staff did nothing. So was it a good thing on the mother's part to say, "I'm not leaving you," so that Elisha would go with? Appears to be. Or was it a little bit of a lack of faith on her part, thinking that the staff wouldn't work, therefore it doesn't? I don't know. When Elisha arrived at the... next verse. He went in by himself and closed the door. Then he prayed to the Lord. He got up on the bed and spread his body out over the boy. He put his mouth on the boy's mouth, his eyes over the boy's eyes, and his palms of his hands against the boy's palms. As he bent down across him, the boy's skin grew warm. Elisha went back and walked around the house. Then he got up on the bed again, and he bent over him. The child sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. He sneezed 7 times. Interesting thing there. 7 being the number of totality and completeness. So this is a completeness of things. By the way, there are, I know there are superstitions around sneezing. I can't remember if it's the spirits have the ability to enter or leave you, kind of a thing there, with sneezing, which is why the responses of "God bless you" after a sneeze are given. I don't remember all the superstition of it, but we don't think about that nowadays. By the way, there was a comedian back in the day that was talking about, should we be so willy-nilly as to say God bless you after a sneeze? Because what if you have a finite number of blessings from God, and you're driving along and you get thrown off a cliff and you're falling to your death, and you pray to God and ask for blessing to rescue you, and he says, sorry, used your last one up this morning on that sneeze. Which I thought was a pretty funny thought. Anyway, this should remind us of Elijah healing the boy by laying on him as well. So we have the two of them both doing very similar things. And one of the reasons why you have them doing similar things is a validation that they were, in fact, the one afterwards. It's a validation of the passing of the baton to the next leader. The next leader duplicates things that the previous one did. We have it when Abraham goes to Isaac. Isaac visits all of the places that Dad did in a reverse order. We have it with Moses and Joshua. Joshua does the things that Moses did. We have it with Peter and Paul as they're going through Acts. Peter does all these things. Paul repeats those things. So we have the repetition of the things to validate the second person is, in fact, a leader like the first person. I'm watching. I never really thought about that, but it takes an inhalation to sneeze, so maybe that was God putting his breath into him 7 times before he woke up. Yeah. So, of course, she blames the prophet. Yeah. Not the guy that hit him in the head, the prophet, because, well, I didn't ask for a kid, you gave me a kid. If you hadn't given me a kid, I wouldn't be in this situation of having a dead kid. Now my heart's broken. If you had done nothing, I was content in the state I was. Now you've put me in a worse state than I was previously. I get her logic. Elisha called to Gehazi and said, "Get the Shunammite woman." So he did so, and she came to him. He said to her, "Take your son." She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed down. Then she picked up her son and left. So, that's a weird story. Someone who blesses the prophet in an immense way, then she's blessed, then sorrow comes in, and then there's restoration. Other than it just being a miraculous story, I don't understand what we're supposed to do with it. Blue, whichever blue one. Okay. By the way, the one I have on is a blue. I don't know if you can see that real well. This one is a dark, like a navy and black. But I'll go with this one. Or I suppose I could go with the blue jean. One. I haven't worn a blue jean one in a while. Okay. Now Elisha went back to Gilgal, where there was a famine in the land. Okay, red light should be flashing. Famine in the land means there is something wrong. A famine is an indication that something is wrong in the people of God in the Old Testament times. It does not mean that today. It only meant that for the land of Israel. That's the only place we should interpret that when there was a famine, that there was something wrong, because they are the only ones who have the promise of a land. So that's why I said whichever, because I know you have a few. Yeah, well, like most of my hats are actually gray or black of some kind. So, okay. So he's going to Gilgal, and there is a famine in the land. Some of the prophets were visiting him, And he told his servant, "Put the big pot on the fire and boil some stew for the prophets." Someone went out to the field to grab some herbs and found a wild vine. He picked some of its fruit, enough to fill up the fold of his robe. He came back, cut it up, and threw the slices in the stew pot, not knowing that it was harmful. The stew was poured out for the men to eat. When they ate some of the stew, they cried out, "Death is in the pot, O prophet!" They could not eat it. He said, "Get some flour." Then he threw it into the pot and said, "Now pour some out for the men so they may eat." There was no longer anything harmful in the pot. Okay, so we had a thing earlier with water, and it was contaminated, and we put salt to alleviate that. Now he picks some fruit, and the fruit is bad, and it's going to cause death in the pot. I don't know what he picked. Some wild berries that looked good, and he puts flour in there, and the flour is going to change things. What is not clear here, okay, is do you pour the flour in the pot, mix it all up, and everything turns good, or was the flour put in the pot, and then that mass of flour absorbed all of the poison, and the flour was taken out and not eaten? I don't know which way to go on this. It doesn't give me enough information. Because just throwing flour in there, to me, I don't know how it changes the consistency of anything. But if the flour was poured in and then pulled out after absorbing something, I can see, They were making gravy. There you go. They made some gravy out of the poison berries. Poison berry gravy coming right up. So, like, these stories with Elisha, like, okay, we're reading about the kings. We have an interaction with Elijah and the king, but most of it has to do with the king. Elisha gets stories that have nothing to do with the kings. He just gets stories about him. I don't know what to do with them sometimes. Okay. Now a man from Baal Shalisha brought some food for the prophet. 20 loaves of bread made from the first fruits of the barley harvest, as well as fresh ears of grain. Elisha said, "Set it before the people so they may eat." But his attendant said, "How can I feed 100 men with this?" He replied, "Set it before the people so they may eat. For this is what the Lord has said. They will eat and have some left over." So he set it before them. They ate and had some left over, just as in the Lord's message. Okay, wait. Okay. So barley, first fruits, and some grain. So it is bread and grain. So it's, you got the, and I know we don't usually do roasted grains when we're eating bread, but it's just bread from the barley harvest. So when Jesus has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, barley loaves is supposed to remind us of this story. And they will eat and have some left over. They will eat and have some left over. We should be connecting the miracle of the 5 loaves and the 2 fish back to this story of Elisha. Who is Elisha? Elisha is the one that comes after Elijah. Who was Elijah? Elijah was John the Baptist. The one that comes after is doing all those miraculous things. Jesus is the one who comes after John the Baptist. He's doing all the miraculous things. The 5 loaves and the 2 fish were barley loaves. This is a story of barley loaves being enough to feed all the people. I mean, there's no fish in the story, though, but we don't need them. And 20 loaves is an interesting number, but it's not enough to feed 100 men. Like, you don't think of a loaf of bread like today being the size of a loaf of bread. This is a bad example, but maybe like, this rock here might be a little loaf that you would have, or maybe twice that size, and you're going to break that for 5 people to eat? Probs not. And have leftover? Are you kidding? Again, like I said, other than these stories are in here, they have no engagement with the king. Why are these stories in here at all if they're not engaged with the king? Okay, now we're going to get to a story that I want to dig into a little deeper. Now, Naaman, the commander of the king of Syria's army, was esteemed and respected by his master, for through him the Lord had given Syria military victories. But this great warrior had a skin disease. Raiding parties went out from Syria and took captive from the land of Israel a young girl who became a servant to Naaman's wife. She told her mistress, if only my master were in the presence of the prophet who is in Samaria, the northern kingdom, then he would cure him of his skin disease. So, Syria is to the north. They've been fighting with Israel. They capture a girl. She becomes a slave. And even though she's a slave, she has concern for her master and says, oh, I wish that my master were over there because the prophet could heal him. Naaman went and told his master what the girl from the land of Israel had said. The king of Assyria said, go! I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So Naaman went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 suits of clothing. Hey, says Pineapple, welcome in. We're in 2 Kings 5. He brought the letter to the king of Israel. It read, this is a letter of introduction for my servant Naaman, whom I have sent to be cured of a skin disease. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, am I God? Can I kill or restore life? Why does he ask me to cure a man of a skin disease? Certainly you must see that he is looking for an excuse to fight me. Honesty comes to the king, and the king is filled with suspicion. What does this tell you about the king? The king doesn't trust God, or the king is selfish and self-centered, or the king is, like, all kinds of things I could come up with. But I just, like, the king tears his clothes. Why? Because he's distressed. He's distressed. This is the sign of distress. Tear your clothes. When Elisha the prophet heard that the king of Israel had tore his clothes, he sent a messenger to the king. Why did you tear your clothes? Send him to me, so he may know there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood in the doorway of Elisha's house. Elisha sent out a messenger who told him, go and wash 7 times in the Jordan. Your skin will be restored, and you will be healed. Naaman was very angry. He said, look, I thought for sure he would come out, stand there, invoke the name of his God, wave his hand over the area, and cure the skin disease. The rivers of Damascus, the Abban, and Pharpar are better than any of the waters in Israel. Could I not wash in them and be healed? So he turned around and he went away angry. Maybe this is the true meaning of the word distressed. Okay, I love this story. It points out he's only standing in the doorway. Like, you went to the door, you knocked on the door, the servant goes to the master, you're stuck at the doorway, you're not invited in yet, wait here, goes to the master, comes back. Hey, the message is, go wash in the Jordan 7 times, 7 being the number of totality, the number of completeness. And he's like, I thought for sure I'd get to see dinner and a show. Oh, wait. The previous story was about dinner. This one was about the show. He wanted to see the show. He'd heard the stories from the servant girl, and he's waiting for Elijah to come out, wave his magic arms around, and hocus pocus, and wallakazam, healeth, I don't know what, trying to, like, healeth, skinneth, or something, you know, like, oculus reparo, you know, kind of thing, you know, epidermo reparo, there we go, epidermo reparo, he's looking for that. So he's a little peeved. His servant approached and said to him, "O master, if if the prophet had told you to do some difficult task, you'd have been willing to do it. It seemed you should be happy that he simply said, 'Wash and you will be healed.'" So he went down and he dipped into the Jordan 7 times, as the prophet had instructed. His skin became as smooth as a young child, and he was healed. Okay, I'm going to go look up names here a second, but I'm also curious on this dipped, but it's not going to get me, I'm not going to bother to go look up dipped, because it's going to be in the Hebrew, and I'm wondering if it's baptizo when this is translated into Septuagint. That's just too many steps to follow through, but that's my brain is going, is the word here dipped in the Jordan connected with baptism that later happens in the Jordan? That's what I'm wondering. Okay. He and his entire entourage returned to the prophet. Naaman came and stood before him. He said, "For sure, I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Now please accept a gift from your servant." But Elisha replied, "As certainly as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will take nothing from you." Naaman insisted that he take it, but he refused. His dipping rejuvenated him. I wonder if he had his wrinkles removed. Oh, I don't think it's thinking of, like, if you're thinking like fingerprint and stuff like that, or you're thinking like age wrinkles. That's an interesting thought. I think with the reference there is like a young child, the rejuvenation thing didn't have to include the wrinkles, but maybe it did. That's interesting. Sis, I find the story fascinating. Generally, we get told, have faith, believe, and you will receive. But here, he had no belief at all. It was his willingness to act despite doubting that brought about his healing. Yeah, the age wrinkles, what you're thinking? Yeah, that's a curious thought. I don't know. Like your laugh lines and your wrinkle line. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to snooze the ad so we can finish this story before we get to the ads. Okay. So he refuses, like, nope, not gonna pay you. Yeah, and the turkey neck. Oh, true. Naaman said, "If not, then please give your servant a load of dirt, enough for a pair of mules to carry." Okay, so this is not a little bit. He's loading up his mules. He's loading up 2 mules with dirt. "For your servant will never again offer a burnt offering or sacrifice to a god other than the Lord. May the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing. When my master enters the temple of Rimmon to worship, and he leans on my arm, and I bow down in the temple of Rimmon, may the Lord forgive your servant for this." Elisha said to him, "Go in peace." Okay, this is one of those things that we really have to put our minds in an ancient thinking. Okay, the reference to the there's no river here that's better than a river there. Why? Because my God is in that place, and all the beauty of my God is in that place. This is a complete change of heart that takes place from the there is no river in Israel good enough for me to I need to take dirt with me. Why? He is going to spread this dirt out in a plot. This is going to be his private place of worship because it's going to be land. We need to think about this in embassy terms. I think that's really our best analogy to today. It is the sovereign soil of Israel in the country of Syria. That's what he's doing. He's bringing the sovereign soil of the God of Israel into the foreign country, and he's building an embassy for God in the foreign country so that God can reside in that place and he can worship God in that place. And he's saying, I'm going to do that. I'm going to worship God only, but I know in my duties, I have this thing that I'm required to do. And when I perform my duty and I bow my head, I want forgiveness because my heart will not be in it. It will just be the ritual of what I need to do in my occupation. There will be no longer my heart serving and worshiping that God in the temple of Rimmon to worship. It's not going to be there. My heart is now firmly for Yahweh. I love that. I love that. So whether there was faith or there was obedience that led to faith, or faith that leads to obedience, I don't think it matters. That's a great insight there, says Pineapple, that obedience leads to faith sometimes, not the other way around. So he goes, he does this, he makes a request, he's bringing dirt back with him. I think that's a really important thing of the story. I don't think he goes to ask boldly for the dirt if Elisha accepts the payment. I think he then does not ask for the dirt. So, I might be wrong. When he had gone a short distance, Gehazi, the prophet of Elisha, servant thought, look, my master did not accept what the Syrian Naaman offered him. Okay, so I told you I was going to look up the names. We finally got here to them both in the same sentence. So 2 Kings 5:20. I wanted to look them up both together. So I wonder if there's a contrast in the names. Gehazi is the servant who has served faithfully, has shown wisdom, but now is slipping into greed.
Strong's H1522. Gehazi.
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 Valley of
Just
Vision.
below that. Gehazi.
Valley of Vision.
Gehazi.
Interesting. So he should have sight to see.
Strong's H5283. Naaman.
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 Pleasantness. Oh, this sounds like Naomi. Naaman. Naomi. Ah. Interesting. I should have picked that up. I didn't. Okay. So, vision and pleasantness. As certainly as the Lords live, I will run after him and accept something from him. So Gehazi ran after Naaman. When Naaman saw someone running after him, he got down from his chariot to meet him and asked, "Is everything all right?" He answered, "Everything's fine. My master sent me with this message. Look, 2 servants of the prophets just arrived from the Ephraim hill country. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 suits of clothes." So 2 suits of clothes and a talent of silver. Naaman said, "Please accept 2 talents of silver." He insisted and tied up the 2 talents of silver in 2 bags along with the 2 suits of clothing. Remember, he brought 10. He gave them to the 2 of his servants, and they carried them for Gehazi. So the servants are carrying them. He doesn't even let him have them. Now look, he's not being super greedy. He's come up with a scheme that seems reasonable and doesn't seem outrageous. Why? This story should connect us with Ananias and Sapphira. I have 0 snoozes left. Oh, bummer. How did I? Okay. Thought I only used 1. When he came and stood before his master, Elisha asked, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" He answered, "Your servant hasn't been anywhere." Elisha replied, "I was there in spirit when a man turned and got down from his chariot to meet you. This is not the proper time to accept silver or to accept clothes, olive groves, vineyard, sheep, cattle, and male and female servants. Look at the long list there that's added. Not all those were available. Therefore, Naaman's skin disease will affect you and your descendants forever. When Gehazi went out from the presence, his skin was as white as snow. So, I wouldn't accept any gift from him. You wanted a gift from him. So I cured him of what he came because of his faith. You went out in greed. You can have what he has. The skin disease that he has, or had. It's like a fitting punishment on some level. But interesting, like, look at that. No olive groves, no vineyards. He didn't have any olive groves and vineyards that were being offered. I don't remember any sheep, cattle, or servants being offered either. Like, unless the two men that came back carrying the stuff were going to stay. But anyway. All right, we should be hitting an ad here shortly. So be checking out the fishies, feeding the little guys. They just get so excited when it's feeding time. Maybe I need to have one of the songs play when I go to the fish, but I don't. Maybe I need a song about the Dapper Fish Pond or something. I don't know. We could play that. This reminds me of the Piranha movie. Yeah, the swarm. And so what's interesting is the pellets I have are too big for the fish at this time. And they're floating pellets. But I've ground them up into fine powder. And so it quickly falls to the bottom. And look at how they're all feeding on the bottom. They know the food is down there on the bottom. Now it's telling me, like, this is where it's weird. Now it's finally getting the message that says ad break ends in a minute. But you told me a minute ago or 30 seconds ago that the ad break was starting. So I have no idea when it really starts. I don't know. So anyway, let's take a look at the pond. Oh, there's Wywis lurking. Boy, he looks like he's up to no good. What are you doing, Wywis? What's up, buddy? I see you. Yeah. You don't like being on camera. Well, then don't do something suspicious there. Talking to you, friend. All right. What you gonna do? You gonna clean off? You gonna clean off Gary there? That'd be cool. Are you gonna? No. Oh, nope. You're just gonna hide from the camera, huh? Camera shy. Sun is rising. That's a kind of beautiful day. See the pond. Oh, you can see one of the little guys up by the waterfall. And a couple over on the right side, too. It seems significant that most diseases were healed, but leprosy, you can be cleansed from it. I do wonder if there's a deeper implication symbolic of sin on some level. Oh, I can answer that in just a second. I hate when it does. The commercial just started from me, so I feel you. Yeah, sorry, ads. LOL. Why was being naughty again? Yes. Being a good fishy. Yes. Okay. So one of the reasons why it is cleansed of leprosy is there are instructions around skin diseases in Leviticus. And if you have skin diseases, you are unclean and you are unable to go into the temple or the tabernacle to worship. So that's the reason why it's talked about as being unclean, and lepers have to live outside of the community, outside, because they are unclean. They can't even go into the community. Now, in Syria, they're doing something different there. He's the king's right-hand man, and he's got the disease, and they're keeping him around. But there were specific instructions when Jesus does heal the lepers. He doesn't take their uncleanness on him. Instead, he restores their cleanness, and they're instructed to go to the priest, show themselves to the priest, and then do the things that Leviticus says you're supposed to do for restoration from leprosy. So leprosy has a special place, but uncleanness is something that can be restored the same way that forgiveness of sins, your status can be restored. So is leprosy a sign of a curse from God on a particular people, since they could really never live fully within the community? I don't think it's labeled that way. We do have, in this particular instance, Elisha giving a curse upon Gehazi and his family by saying that. So he is doing that. From the standpoint of the idea that a curse separates us from God, I think I would agree with you. Yeah, I know you just meant in the Bible. I understood that. I'm just trying to think through that. Hey! Cabo! CCP, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, I'm trying to think through that, because I don't think when it was mentioned that, of people getting it in Leviticus that it had to do with mentioning anything around a curse. It was simply mentioning about it and the status of it you would have. But there are times when it appears that having leprosy is seen as a judgment or a punishment. And if you do that, then you could say that it's consequences and therefore could be a curse. And it just really depends on how you want to view that. I could see it being viewed that way, but I'm a little cautious to go that way. So I might be making a distinction between the two, that I don't want to call it a curse or the curse or anything like that to have it, because it's more a matter of cleanness in most instances and ability to come into the temple and be there. Not much more than that, I would think. So, good question. Ooh, we're going to get to the floating axe head. So again, there are groups of prophets around at this time. There are groups of prophets. So some of the prophets said to Elisha, look, the place where we meet with you is too cramped for us. Let's go to the Jordan. Each of us will get a log from there, and we will build a meeting place for ourselves there. He said, go. One of them says, please come along with your servants. He replied, all right, I'll come. So he went with them. When they arrived at the Jordan, they started cutting down trees. As one of them was felling a tree, the axe head dropped into the water. He shouted, oh no! My master, it was borrowed. The prophet asked, where did it drop in? Then he showed him the spot. Elijah cut off a branch, threw it at the spot, and made the axe head float. He said, lift it out. So he reached out his hand and he grabbed it. This is, I gotta be, like, the most bizarre story in Scripture to me. It's gotta be. I guess if I cannot visit the temple and commune with God, that's a sort of a curse. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said, like, it's how do you perceive it, how do you look at it, whether you would view it as curse or not, whether it's labeled curse or not, might be different than how it feels. So, but an axe head, okay, they don't float. There's no amount of me doing anything that makes any sense that could make it float. Like, okay, so I have been trying to give realistic explanations of the things he did earlier, not because I'm downplaying supernatural or miraculous in any way. I'm not trying to do that in any of these stories. I don't do it for that reason. Okay? I don't try to downplay the miraculous. I just try to understand. So, putting the salt in the spring that was killing people, okay, is there some logical thing about doing that? putting the flour into the poison stew? Was there some rationale for doing that? Or are both of these, all three of these, simply miraculous? He throws wood, a stick, because the axe fell off the handle and flew off the handle. So is the axe head going to be attracted to the wood that floats? So if it floats, it weighs the same as a duck, and therefore it is an axe head, and it floats, and you can just reach down and grab it. Like I said, why it's in the Jordan River. Why can't you just go in and get it? Like, oh no, it's there. Where'd it go in? Right there. We'll reach down and get it. Why doesn't he, like, stop the river up? Like, no, he floats the axe head. I mean, what am I supposed to do with this story? Other than go, man, this guy's cool. Man, this guy had the power to do all kinds of things. The other thing is Naaman wanted a miraculous thing done in his presence. Oh, wait, the same Jordan where Naaman washed off the leprosy, now we have an axe head floating? I don't know, man. It's... Thought you were going to see if it weighs the same as a duck. No. If I was doing half of the Monty Python skit. I just didn't go into the. She's a witch. Burn her. The flex. So, I'm not. Did I say the flex? Did I misspeak? Did I say something weird? Probably did. Anyway, axe head floats. I don't know how. I don't know why. Elisha gets some weird stories. That's all I know. He has some weird powers to show he can do things. He flexes his muscles and does whatever he wants to bless people. It was borrowed. Oh, well, in that case, I'll get it for you. Now the king of Syria was at war with Israel. He consulted his advisors, who said, invade at such and such a place. But the prophet sent this message to the king of Israel. Make sure you don't pass through this place, because Syria is invading there. So the king of Israel sent a messenger to the palace the prophet had pointed out, warning him to be on guard. This happened on several occasions. I'm thinking that he just flexed on everybody with the tossing the twig. Okay, that's what you're getting. And getting the head back. Yeah, it was, like, okay, think about it in this way. Like, I'm going to throw a pencil. I'm going to throw a pencil into the river. It will float, and the axe head will float with it. Like, it's weird. It's weird. What an interesting conversation that would be. Elijah, how do you know it will float? Maybe he didn't. He just believed. Well, he had to just believe. I mean, I'm poking fun of it a little bit. Like, it's going to weigh the same as something, and it's going to float. Like, what else floats? What else floats? Good gravy. Really small rocks. If you don't know that, it's funny. It's funny. Okay. This made the king of Syria upset, so he summoned his advisors and said to them, one of us must be helping the king of Israel. One of his advisors said, no, my master, O king. The prophet Elijah, who lives in Israel, keeps telling the king of Israel the things you say in your bedroom. Notice the emphasis there. There is nothing private, nothing unseen, nothing unheard. Like, yeah. If someone said to flat cap, throw your flat cap into the fire and it won't burn, would you? If I'd seen other things like this happen, sure. without that, yeah, I'm thinking no. Like, yeah, I'm not throwing my hat in the fire. Why, you know, like, eh. Or, like, let's make it a bigger story. Like, oh no, the house is catching on fire. Well, throw your hat into the fire, and your hat will just consume the fire up, and the house will be saved. Really? Are you sure? I don't know. Don't think so. Not. And then, I'll tell you, you know, unless there's a history behind it, and like I said, prior evidence that's there, Prob's not throwing my hat in. Prob's not throwing my hat in. Just saying. Well played. Well played. Good thought. Okay. The king. Okay. So one of his advisors is this Naaman? Is Naaman the one who brings this up? Who does it? Try that on a stream someday, Lalo. I'm not burning a house down on stream. How would I stream and burn the house down? My internet's in the house. It would, like, if you advertise that, you know, that would be an interesting feat. But I have not been called to do that, so I am not. The king ordered, go find out where he is, so I can send some men to capture him. The king was told, he is in Dothan. So he sent horses and chariots there, along with a good-sized army. They arrived during the night and surrounded the city. Okay, so remember when, I think it was Elijah, had soldiers come to him, 50 of them, and he went, bye-bye, bye-bye now, and they all died. And 50 more came, and he said, bye-bye, bye-bye now, and they all died. And then another captain with 50 came, and he said, hey, can you spare our lives and just come with us? Okay, so I think like I said, we're replaying stories in repetition of one person to the next. The prophet's attendants got up early in the morning. When they went outside, there was an army surrounding the city, along with horses and chariots. He said to Elisha, oh no, my master, what will we do? He said, don't be afraid, for our side outnumbers them. Then Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes so he can see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he saw that the hill was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. As the army approached him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, strike these people with blindness. The Lord struck them with blindness, and as Elijah requested. Then Elisha said to them, this is not the right road or city. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you're looking for. He led them to Samaria. Hey, MC Wolfcat. Oh my goodness, Cap's gonna burn the house down? No, I'm saying I'm not. No way. Trying to make a t-shirt one day that says, I'm gonna flex like Elisha. Hold my twig. Nice. Nice. That'd be an awesome shirt. Okay, so the other servant who was named, let's go back and look. Oh, sorry, here it is. Valley of Vision. So Gehazi is named Valley of Vision. He could not see what he was doing. He could not see right from wrong. Here, a second servant cannot see until Elisha opens his eyes for him to see. I think there's something there. Like the servant with no name cannot see, and now his eyes are open. And once he can see, then the men who are coming to attack are hit with blindness. I mean, just the juxtaposition of all of those three things is fun. When they had entered Samaria, Elisha said, "O Lord, open their eyes so they can see." The Lord opened their eyes, and they saw that they were in the middle of Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he asked Elijah, "Should I strike them down, my master?" The king of Israel is smart enough to ask what to do here. Way smarter than Saul, just going to say that. He replied, "Do not strike them down. You did not capture them with the sword or the bow, so what gives you the right to strike them down? Give them some food and water so they can eat and drink and go back to their master." So he threw a big banquet for them, and they ate and drank. Then he sent them back to their master. After that, no Syrian raiding party again invaded the land of Israel. I love the end of this. I love the end of this. Feed them. Send them home. Why you talking about killing them for? So, I know. I think that's cool. Conroy, hey, welcome in. Morning. I'm starting once human and disappointed. I can't make a guy with a huge poof of hair. Well, you know, not every game lets you do what you want. It says Pineapple. I do know someone who that happened to in real life. There was some missionaries at our church, and while they were serving, there was a coup in the country, and they had to get out. They were scared and opened the door to leave, and one of them got a vision of a whole load of men on horseback forming a circle, but they were sort of glowing. They fled feeling they were protected. Ooh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm not doubting that these things can and do still happen today. I was just playing around with the who had vision, who didn't have vision, who had sight, who didn't have sight, who had vision, and who had foresight. You know, those kinds of things. Yeah, no burning down the house today. Phew. Yeah. Yeah, Catherine Naomi has some cool emotes. What's interesting, let me just ask this. I believe I have two people. Catherine Naomi is one of them. Delcary is the other. They always show up that I have one emote from them. Like when I'm not subscribed to them, I mean, I had been subscribed at one point, but I always have one emote from those two people. I don't think there's anyone else that I do that for. I have one emote from them, and I don't understand how I have a single emote without a sub, what that's all about or how that does, or how I could do that for other people too. Hey guys, hold up. I can make a female with a wild hair. Well, there you go. You do what you, yeah, there you go. Get your wild hair if that's what you're after. Later, King Ben-Hadad of Assyria assembled his entire army and attacked and besieged Samaria. Samaria's food supply ran out. They laid siege to it so long that a donkey's head was selling for 80 shekels of silver and a quarter of a cob of dove's droppings, for 5 shekels of silver. Cob was a unit of dry measure equal to approximately 2 quarts or 2 liters. So I'm going to go get a 2 liter of dove droppings. Try marketing that. Dove droppings. No, I can't even follow that up. Yeah, but why don't I have that for other streamers? Like, I'm not in their stream. I'm not talking about the while I'm in their stream. Like, I can go do it right now. See, right there. I'm not in Delcary's stream. How do I have Delcary's? And then here's my... Oh, sorry. Wrong Kate. It's Graciously Kate that I have. I have those 2 emotes to use anywhere, at any time. How do I... Well, even if it's a follower emote, how do I have a single follower emote to use that's not in their stream? While the king of Israel was passing by onto the city wall, a woman shouted to him, "Help us, my master, O king." He replied, "No, let the Lord help you. How can I help you? The threshing floor and the wine presses are empty." Then the king asked her, "What's your problem?" She answered, Then Then the king asked her, what's your problem? This woman said to me, hand over your son. We'll eat him today and then eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and ate him. Then I said to her the next day, hand your son over and we'll eat him. So she hid her son. When the king heard that the woman had said, he tore his clothes as he was passing by the wall. The people could see he was wearing sackcloth under his clothes. Interesting. He's got sackcloth under his clothes to prepare to be in mourning. Then he said, may God judge me severely if, if Elisha, son of Shaphat, still has his head by the end of the day. So he's cursing Elijah, gonna go after Elijah. I tend to get random gift subs from communities I visit in raids. Then I might go check out the channel, trying to figure out how I know the person and realize it was a gift sub when the follower emotes don't work. Yeah, it's not a random gift sub. I have one single emote, and I've had those for years now from those two people. Here, get your dove droppings here for all your flowers compostable needs. Pick up your dove droppings today. That sounds a lot more reasonable, but I think they were making some stew with the dove droppings, I think is what they're doing. Maybe it's a sub hype like that. Oh, that's a good thought. Maybe I got a sub hype one that I can hang on to. Hadn't thought about that. I do know that I had been in sub things with them, or I may have, well, hype train. I had been in hype trains with them. Recycled protein? That's it. That's what they're going for. Anyway. Now, Elisha was sitting in his house with the community leaders. The king sent a messenger on ahead before he arrived. Elisha said to the leaders, do you realize this assassin intends to cut off my head? Look, when the messengers arrived, shut the door and lean against it. His master will certainly be right behind him. So, he was still talking to them when a messenger approached. He said, look, the Lord is responsible for this disaster. Why should I continue to wait for the Lord to help? Oh yeah, the random somebody gifted me a sub. I've had that where I've never been to the channel before, but these are ones I've been to the channel, and I haven't been to the channel in a long time, and I still have a single emote from those two people, but I never had that with anyone else. Interesting. The fish are currently moving the pot with the water lilies across the pond. They stopped, or I'd show you. I just glanced at that. Stew? Probably to make a liquid feed with yeah, I think that's what they're doing. I think they're going to make a stew with it of some kind. Not a great stew. Ew. Okay. Elisha replied. See, this is one of those places where there's a bad break. Why should I continue to wait for the Lord? Yeah, they're redecorating. Elisha replied, listen to the Lord's message. This is what the Lord has said. About this time tomorrow, a shea of flour, or a finely milled flour, will sell for a shekel, and 2 sheas of barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria. An official who was the king's right-hand man responded to the prophet, look, even if, even if the Lord made it rain by opening holes in the sky, like rain in buckets, how could this happen so soon? Elisha said, look, you will see it happen with your own eyes, but you will not eat any of the food. So you doubted, you get nothing. Your doubt gets you nothing. Now, 4 men with a skin disease. See, we're returning to the skin disease problem. Okay? We had Naaman who came from Syria with a skin disease. We had Gehazi who retained that skin disease. Now we have 4 more people with a skin disease. We're sitting at the entrance of the gate. They said to one another, why are we just sitting here waiting to die? Because they can't go in. They got a skin disease. They can't go into the community. If, bum, 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 if we go into the city, we'll die of starvation. And if, bum, 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 if we stay here, we'll die. So come on, let's defect to the Syrian camp. If, bum, 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 if they spare us, we'll live. If, bum, 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 if they kill us, well, we were going to die anyway. So they started towards the Syrian camp at dusk. When they reached the edge of the Syrian camp, there was no one there. The Lord had caused the Syrian camp to hear the sound of chariots and horses and a large army. Then they said to one another, "Look, the king of Israel has paid the king of the Hittites and the Egyptians to attack us." Ifception, yeah. Cheery souls, aren't they? Yes. So they got up and fled at dusk, leaving behind their tents, horses, and donkeys. They left the camp as it was and ran for their lives. When the men with the skin disease reached the edge of the camp, they entered a tent and had a meal. They also took some silver, gold, and clothes and went and hid it all. Then they came back and entered another tent. They looted it and went and hid what they had taken. Okay, so this sounds like at this point they're going and taking things. They're hiding them. It reminds me of Achan. Taking looting and hiding it. Then they said to one another, "It's not right that we're doing what we're doing. This is a day to celebrate, but we haven't told anyone. If, if we wait until dawn, we'll be punished. So come on, let's go inform the royal palace." So they went and they called out to the gatekeeper of the city. They told him, "We went to the Syrian camp and there's no one there. We didn't even hear a man's voice. But the horses and donkeys are still tied up and the tents remain up." The gatekeeper relayed the news to the royal palace. The king got up in the night and said to his advisors, "I will tell you what the Syrians have done to us. They know we are starving." So they left the camp and hid in the fields, thinking that we'll come out of the city, we will capture them alive, and enter the city. So the king is like, "I'm too fearful. It's a trap. It's a trap." One of his advisors replied, "Pick some men and have them take 5 of the horses that are left in the city. Even if, if they are killed, their fate will be no different than that of the Israelite people. We're all going to die. Let's send them out so we can know for sure what's going on." So they picked 2 horsemen, and the king sent them out to track the Syrian army. Wait. Okay, so they're tracking the Syrian army? Aren't they going to the camp? Oh, after the Syrian camp. Well, I don't like the translation of the army. It feels like they're not going to the camp to me. I know, Monty Python sketch there. Look at the bright side of life. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. He ordered them, "Go and find out what's going on." So they tracked them as far as the Jordan. Okay, that's why they're saying they tracked as far as the Jordan. The road was filled with clothes and equipment that the Syrian army had discarded in their haste. The scouts went back and told the king. Then the people went out and looted the Syrian camp. A seah of finely milled flour sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, just as in the Lord's message. There's no FOMO. I've said before, there are people who just lurk, and if I don't read what's in the chat, they don't know what's in the chat. Yeah, pray for my FOMO so I can stay reading the relevant chat and catch up on the Bible reading. Well, I'm not worried about getting caught up. Yesterday we were off on Bible reading that wasn't even in the day's selection, so it's all good. Now the king had placed the officer who was his right-hand man at the city gate. When the people rushed out, they trampled him to death in the gate. This fulfilled the prophet's words which he had spoken when the king tried to arrest him. The prophet had told the king, 2 seahs of barley will sell for a shekel, and a seah of finely milled flour for a shekel. This will happen about this time tomorrow in the gate of Samaria. But the officer had replied to the prophet, look, even if, if the Lord made it rain by opening holes in the sky, could this happen so soon? Elisha said, look, you will see it happen with your own eyes, but you will not eat any of the food. This is exactly what happened to him. The people trampled him to death at the city gate. Sorry, you caused chaos when you joined the chat. Oh, it's not you. It's everybody. Hence the little laughing emotes, yes. Where are we at? Okay. Elisha again helps the Shunammite woman. So we're not done with her. Last we left the Shunammite woman, Elisha had raised her son from the dead because he'd been struck in the head when he went out to be with his dad at the barley harvest. I believe it was barley harvest. Anyway, they were reaping the grain. Now Elijah advised the woman whose son he had brought back to life, you and your family should go and live somewhere else for a while, for the Lord has decreed that a famine will overtake the land for 7 years. A 7-year famine, a total and complete famine. Oh, just like in Egypt, 7 good years and 7 bad years. So the woman did as the prophet said. She and her family went and lived in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. Wow, interesting. They go to the Philistines. I'm just trying to think of places that have gone. I know David went to the Philistines, but it wasn't for 7 years, and it was fleeing Saul's army. He did that a couple of times. And Elijah didn't go to the Philistines. I think he went to Moab, or no. Anyway, that is a huge image. Is someone said, hey, leave your house now and go live in a different country for 7 years or else. Well, yeah, like think about that. Like, I'm only going to pick on this because it happened a couple years ago. Someone said to a person living in Ukraine, hey, there's going to be a war. You need to leave the country now because war is coming. You need to take your family and go and leave. And then, it happened and come back later. That's an interesting thing, yeah. Regardless of what would be the reason why you would leave. After 7 years, a woman returned from the land of the Philistines and went to ask the king to give her back her house and field. Now the king was talking to Gehazi, the prophet's servants, and said, tell me all the great things that Elisha has done. While Gehazi was telling the king how Elisha had brought the dead back to life, the woman whose son he had brought back to life came to ask the king for her house and field. So Gehazi is in the presence of the king with leprosy, telling the king about all the exploits of Elisha, and the guy that he brought back to life just so happens to show up at that time. Gehazi said, my master, O king, this is the very woman, and this is her son whom Elisha brought back to life. The king asked the woman about it, and she gave him the deets. The king assigned a eunuch to take care of her request and ordered him, give her back everything she owns, as well as the amount of crops her field produced from the day she left until now. Flat cap. If I was that family in the Ukraine who left because of a warning, I would have maxed out everything I could on the house insurance policies. That's good forethought there. I hadn't thought about that, but I don't know if war is covered by insurance. It's interesting. The king is going above and beyond. He is giving everything that the land produced until now. It wouldn't be necessary. So this sounds like one of the very few times where Jubilee might be taking place, which is the restoration of property to people in the year of Jubilee. Everything gets returned to them. Elisha traveled to Damascus while King Ben-Hadad of Syria was sick. The king was told, "The prophet has come here." So the king told Hazael, "Take a gift and go visit the prophet. Request from him an oracle from the Lord. Ask him, 'Will I recover from this sickness?'" So Hazael went to visit Elisha. He took along a gift as well as 40 camel loads of all the fine things of Damascus. When he arrived, he stood before him and said, Your son, interesting, King Ben-Hadad of Syria has sent me to ask you a question. Will I recover from this sickness?" Elisha said to him, "Go and tell him, you will surely recover, but the Lord has revealed to me that he will surely die." Elisha just stared at him until Hazael became uncomfortable. Then the prophet started crying. Hazael asked, "Why are you crying, my master?" He replied, "Because I know the trouble you will cause the Israelites. You will set fire to their fortress, kill their young men with the sword, smash the children to bits, and rip open their pregnant women." Hazael said, "How could your servant, who is as insignificant as a dog, accomplish this great military victory?" Elisha answered, "The Lord has revealed to me that you will be king of Syria." He left Elijah, went to his master Ben-Hadad, asked him, "What did Elisha tell you?" Hazael replied, "He told me you will surely recover." The next day, Hazael took a piece of cloth, dipped it in water, and spread it over Ben-Hadad's face until he died. Then Hazael replaced him as king. So the servant comes and asks what's supposed to happen, and he's told, you're going to be king, and it's going to be awful. But we are telling the guy he's going to do these things. Weird. This makes me want Google house insurance policies. I wonder if there's a clause with a company helps you rebuild anything or unforeseen events. There could be, but it would probably be really expensive. And there might be a period of time that before the policy would go into effect. So you'd have to buy it too far in advance to buy it and then, have it happen in a week's time or something. In the 5th year of the reign of Israel's king Joram, son of Ahab, Jehoshaphat's son Jehoram became king over Judah. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 8 years in Jerusalem. He followed in the footsteps of the kings of Israel, just as Ahab's dynasty had done, for he married Ahab's daughter. So, Jehoshaphat lets his son marry Ahab's daughter. This might be why he was willing and fighting along with Israel. He was trying to join them together. Ahab's daughter is now part of that. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, but the Lord was unwilling to destroy Judah. He preserved Judah for the sake of his servant David, to whom he had promised a perpetual dynasty. During his reign, Edom freed themselves from Judah's control and set up their own king. So previously they wiped out, remember, they wiped out all the men except one, and they've been serving Judah, and now Judah's finally freed themselves with a weaker king who's tied to Israel. Jehoram crossed over to Zair with his chariots. The Edomites, who had surrounded him, attacked at night and defeated him and his chariot officers. The Israelite army retreated to their homeland, so Edom has remained free from Judah's control to this very day. At the same time, Libnah also rebelled. And Libnah did too. Who's Libnah? They're not important. The rest of the events of Jehoram's reign, including a record of his accomplishments, all recorded in the scroll called the Annals of the Kings of Judah. Jehoram passed away and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, with his son Ahaziah replaced him as king. In the 12th year of the reign of Israel's king Joram, son of Ahab, Jehoram's son Ahaziah became king over Judah. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother was Athaliah, the granddaughter of King Omri of Israel. So his mother is the granddaughter of King Omri. He followed in the footsteps of Ahab's dynasty and did evil in the sights of the Lord, and Ahab's dynasty had done, for he was related to Ahab's family. Okay, so we need to go look up a couple of names here. Why are we suddenly getting Athaliah mentioned in here? Okay, so we're in 2 Kings 8. I thought I typed 2. Ba-da-bum-bum. What verse was I in? I thought I was right about here. Oh, 25 and following. Didn't go far enough. There we go. So let's go ahead and look up Ahaziah. My father is God, or no, Ab is father, not Ah. Athaliah. Okay.
Strong's H 274. Ahaziah.
Ahijah.
Ahaziah. Second entry. Ahaziahu. Ahaziahu.
Okay, that's a weird pronunciation. So God holds, or God possesses.
Strong's H 6271. Athaliah. Athaliah.
Afflicted by the Lord. So, his mother afflicted by the Lord, granddaughter of King Omri of Israel. That, you want to, like, Naomi, okay, wants to be called Mara, which means bitter. Same idea here, afflicted by the Lord. Afflicted by the Lord. Okay. He joined Ahab's son Joram in battle against King Hazael of Syria at Ramoth Gilead, in which the Syrians defeated Joram. King Joram returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds he received from the Syrians. In Ramah, when he fought against King Hazael of Syria, King Ahaziah, son of Jehoram of Judah, went down to visit Joram, son of Ahab, in Jezreel, for he was ill. BRB? All right. We got some Jehu over here. Now Elisha the prophet summoned a member of the prophetic guild and told him, "Tuck your robes into your belt, take this container of olive oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. When you arrive there, look for Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, and take him aside into an inner room. Take the container of olive oil, pour it over his head, and said, 'This is what the Lord has said. I have designated you as king over Israel. Then open the door and run away quickly.'" So we're going to get a drive-by anointing of a new king. So it's this Jehu that we're going to anoint. So the young prophet went to Ramoth Gilead. When he arrived, the officers of the army were sitting there. He said to them, "I have a message for you, O officer." Jehu asked, "For which one of us?" He replied, "For you, O officer." So Jehu got up and went inside. Then the prophet poured olive oil over his head and said to him, "This is what the Lord God of Israel has said. I have distinguished you as king over the Lord's people Israel. You will destroy the family of your master Ahab. I will get revenge against Jezebel for the shed blood of my servants the prophet and for the shed blood of all the Lord's servants. Ahab's entire family will die. I will cut off every last male belonging to Ahab in Israel, including even the weak and incapacitated. I will make Ahab's dynasty like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and Baasha, son of Ahijah. The dogs will devour Jezebel on the plot of ground in Jezreel. She will not be buried." Then he opened the door and ran away. So anointing, we got more info in the anointing. Like, hey, God's going to fulfill all this stuff promised. You got to go do it. I got to skedaddle. He might have talked fast to run away fast. Yeah. When Jehu rejoined his master's servants, they asked him, "Is everything all right? Why did that madman visit you?" So his running away is why they're thinking is a madman. He replied, "Oh, it's not important. You know what kind of man he is and the kind of things he says." So being a prophet, maybe. The kind of things he does and the kind of things he says. But they said, "You're lying. Tell us what he said." So he told them what he said. He also related, now he had said, "This is what the Lord has said. I have designated you as king over Israel." Each of them quickly took off his cloak, and they spread them out at Jehu's feet on the steps. The trumpets were blown, and they shouted, "Jehu is king!" Then Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Jehu the assassin. That's weird. It's a weird statement in there. Is that a... Usually those are bolded if that's not in the text. Now Joram had been in Ramoth Gilead with the whole Israelite army, guarding against the invasion by King Hazael of Syria. But King Joram had returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds he received from the Syrians. When he fought against the king Hazael of Syria, Jehu told his supporters, if you really want me to be king, then don't let anyone escape from the city to go and warn Jezreel." Jehu drove his chariot to Jezreel, for Joram was recuperating there. Now King Hazael of Judah had come down to visit Joram. They knew he was lying since his head was wet with oil. Yeah, I'm thinking that's part of it. Not that he couldn't have, wiped it down or covered it with a turban in some way. They knew the jig was up in some way. So yeah. But if it was the oil, that would be pretty hard to hide. Like, why is your head covered with oil? Like, sus, man, sus. Okay. Now the watchman was standing on the tower in Jezreel, and he saw Jehu's troops approaching. He said, "I see troops." Joram ordered, "Send a rider out to meet them and have him ask, 'Is everything all right?'" So the horseman went out to meet him and said, "This is what the king says. Is everything all right?" Jehu replied, "None of your business. Follow me." The watchman reported, "The messenger reached them, but hasn't started back." So he sent a second horseman out to them. And he said, "This is what the king says. Is everything all right?" Jehu replied, "None of your business. Follow me." The watchman reported, he reached them, but he hasn't started back. The one who drives a lead chariot drives like Jehu of Nimshi. He drives recklessly. So this Jehu drives recklessly. Okay, there's where we got to go. Look his name up. Verse 20, we'll see what his name means. bum. Ferociously. Okay. Don't need to look that one up.
Strong's H 3058. Yehu.
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 This Yehu. God is he. God is he. Yehu. So, God is he drives recklessly. Joram ordered, "Hitch up my chariot." When his chariot had been hitched up, King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah went out in their respective chariots to meet Jehu. They met up with him in the plot of land that had once belonged to Naboth of Jezreel. Does anyone remember? Jehu? Does anyone remember Naboth of Jezreel? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The plot of land that Ahab wanted to take the vineyard and turn it into a garden instead of a vineyard. And since he would not sell it, Jezebel had him killed. When Joram saw Jehu, he asked, "Is everything all right, Jehu?" He replied, "How can everything be all right as long as your mother Jezebel promotes idolatry and pagan practices?" Joram turned his chariot around and took off. He said to Ahaziah, "It's a trap!" Ahaziah. Jehu aimed his bow and shot an arrow right between Joram's shoulders. The arrow went through his heart and he fell to his knees in his chariot. Jehu ordered his officer, Bidkar, pick him up and throw him into the part of the field that once belonged to Naboth of Jezreel. Remember, you and I were riding together behind his father Ahab when the Lord pronounced this oracle against him. Know for sure that I saw that you shed the blood of Naboth and his sons yesterday, says the Lord, and that I will give you what you deserve right here in this plot of land, says the Lord. So now pick him up and throw him into the plot of land, just as the Lord's message is a trap. Yes, Jezebel was wild, certainly was. When King Ahaziah of Judah saw what happened, he took off for the road to Beth Hagan. My brain wanted to say Haggis. Beth Hagan. Jehu chased him and ordered, "Shoot him too!" They shot him while he was driving his chariot up the ascent of Gurnir Iblim. Iblim? He fled to Megiddo and died there. His servants took his body back to Jerusalem and buried him in the tomb that his ancestors in the city of David. Ahaziah had become king over Judah in the 11th year of Joram, son of Ahab. Jehu approached Jezreel. When Jezebel heard the news, she put on some eyeliner, fixed up her hair, and leaned out the window. When Jehu came through the gate, he said, "Is everything all right? Zimri, murderer of his master?" He looked up at the window and said, "Who was on my side? Who?" 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down at him. He said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and when she hit the ground, her blood splattered against the wall and the horses, and Jehu drove his chariot over her. He went inside and had a meal. Then he said, "Dispose of this accursed woman's corpse. Bury her, for after all, she was a king's daughter." But when he went to bury her, they found nothing left but the skull and feet and the palms of her hands. So they went back and told him. Then he said, "It is the fulfillment of the Lord's message that he had spoken through his servant Elijah the Tishbite. In the plot of land at Jezreel, dogs will devour Jezebel's flesh. Jezebel's corpse will be like manure on the surface of the ground in the plot of land at Jezreel. People will not be able to even recognize her. Like, this is some, like, so I was saying, hey, you know, there was a lot of Elisha. Why don't we get the kings? Well, now we're getting the kings. And they're interwoven back to some of Elijah now. Let's see if Elisha shows up at all. Hey, thanks for the alert, King. Ahab had 70 sons living in Samaria. So Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria to the leading officials of Jezreel and to the guardians of Ahab's dynasty. This is what the letter said. You have with you the son of your master, chariots and horses, a fortified city, and weapons. So when this letter arrives, pick the best and most capable of your master's sons, place him on his father's throne, and defend your master's dynasty. Wait, 70 sons. Who else had 70 sons? My brain is trying to remember suddenly. Just a map. God don't discriminate. Everybody can catch these hands. Ads in 30 seconds. Okay. And I have no more delay, so I'm gonna just go look up 70 sons here a minute. So I feel like somebody in Judges had 70 sons. Yeah, he had 70 sons of his own. He had many wives. Yeah. Jerubbaal, Gideon. 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. "40 sons, 70 donkeys." That's not it. Okay, so this is what I was thinking of. Is the 70 sons of Gideon. I think it's Gideon. Let's read full chapter. So 29. Yeah, Gideon's ephod, Gideon's death. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise. Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went back to live. He had 70 sons and concubines. Gideon, son of Joash. Okay. Yeah, Jerubbaal. Here it is. That is Gideon. Yeah, I thought it was. Okay, we got ads. Let's look at the fishies. So are they going to push the? Oh no, he went underneath. They're going right at it for a minute. Yeah, the pot there was all the way on the right side, and they pushed it to the middle of the pond. So I'm not sure why they did such a thing. But you can hear the water flowing. It's pretty. And let's see what the baby koi are up to. Feed me, Seymour! Feed me! It is so fun to watch them scurry like that. Hello, orange fellow. Hello, dark fellow. Hello, everybody else. Indistinguished. Alright, take a peek at all of them. Bottom bum. Bingo. I think we're back. Okay. So I was looking up who else had 70, and I was right. It was Gideon. Gideon also had 70. Oh, we got a... they're so weirdly named. But we got a clip. Uh-oh. What did we clip? Okay, so Ahab had 70 sons living in Samaria. 70 could be a representation of the 70 that go down to Egypt, the 70 of the nation, and a couple of people had 70 sons. Gideon being the last one that had 70 sons. That didn't turn out so good. So he's telling all 70 of these sons and the keeper of each of these sons, hey, set your guy up as king. So you suddenly are going to have, there's not necessarily 70 still living, I don't think. Oh, no, I guess it had 70 sons living in Samaria. Okay. They're all going to set up as king. Like, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. You got soldiers protecting you, and we're going to set you up as king. They were absolutely terrified and said, look, 2 kings could not stop him. How can we? So the palace supervisor, the city commissioner, and the leaders, and the guardians sent this message to Jehu. We are your subjects. Whatever you say, we will do. We will not make anyone king. Do what you consider proper. Weird. Oh, it's not you naming him weirdly. Like, when you create the clip, like it says, Eager, Bloody, Hedgehog, PJ Sugar. Like, you didn't name that. Twitch named it that. Like, that's weird. I'm sorry. Eager, Bloody, Hedgehog, PJ Sugar. That's the part I'm talking about. So, that seems weird to me. I don't know what an Eager, Bloody Hedgehog is, and I'm not sure what PJ Sugar is. Pajama Sugar? Is the Eager, Bloody Hedgehog in pajamas eating sugar? What are you talking about? Okay. He wrote them a second letter saying, if you are really on my side and are willing to obey me, then take the heads of your master's sons and come to me in Jezreel at this time tomorrow. Now the king had 70 sons, and the prominent men of the city were raising them. When they received the letter, they seized the king's son and executed all 70 of them. They put their heads in a basket, and they sent them to him in Jezreel. The messenger came and told Jehu, they have brought the heads of the king's sons. Jehu said, stack them in 2 piles at the entrance of the city gate until morning. In the morning, he went out and stood there. Then he said to all the people, you are innocent. I conspired against my master and killed him. But who struck down all these men? Therefore take note that not one of the Lord's words which he pronounced against Ahab's dynasty will fail to materialize. The Lord has done what he announced through his servant Elijah. Then Jehu killed all who were left of Ahab's family in Jezreel, and all his nobles, close friends, and priests. He left no survivors. You need to save that in my insult. An idiotic Sonic horror game. I think I would be an awesome UK chastisement. What say ye? Okay. Jehu then left there, and he sent out for Samaria. While he was traveling from Beth Eked of the shepherds, Jehu encountered the relatives of King Ahaziah of Judah. He asked, who are you? They replied, we are Ahaziah's relatives. We have come down to see how the king's son and queen mother's sons are doing. He said, capture them alive. So he captured them alive and then executed all 42 of them by the cistern of Beth Eked. He left no survivors. Why is he doing this? They are all related to Ahab and Jezebel. They were the kings. The king's mother was the daughter. So that's why he's doing these things. When he left there, he met Jehonadab. Boy, that's a hard one. Jehonadab, son of Rechab, who had been looking for him. Jehu greeted him and asked, "Are you as committed to me as I am to you?" Jehonadab answered, "I am," Jehu replied, if you give me your hand." So he offered his hand to Jehu. Jehu pulled him up into his chariot. Jehu said, "Come with me and see how zealous I am for the Lord's cause." So he took him into his chariot. He went to Samaria, and he killed each of Ahab's remaining family members who were in Samaria until he destroyed them, in keeping with the Lord's message, which he had announced to Elijah. He's like, I'm going to carry it all out. Jehu assembled all the people and said to them, "Ahab worshipped Baal a little." What? A little. Jehu will worship him with great devotion. So now bring to me all the prophets of Baal, as well as all his servants and priests. Oh, okay. I get it. He's being sarcastic. He worshiped Baal a little, but I'm going to worship him with great devotion. Bring me all the prophets. None of them must be absent, for I am offering a great sacrifice to Baal. Any of them who fails to appear will lose his life. But Jehu was tricking them so that he could destroy the servants of Baal. Then Jehu ordered, "Make arrangements for a celebration for Baal." So they announced it. Jehu sent invitations throughout Israel, and all the servants of Baal came. Not one was absent. They arrived at the temple of Baal and filled it up from end to end. Jehu ordered the one who was in charge of the wardrobe, "Bring out robes for all the servants of Baal." So he brought out robes for them. Then Jehu and Jehonadab, son of Rechab, went to the temple of Baal. Jehu said to the servants of Baal, "Make sure there are no servants of the Lord here. There must be only servants of Baal." They went inside to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had stationed 80 men outside, and he told them, if any of the men inside gets away, you will pay with your lives. Then he finished offering the burnt sacrifices. Jehu ordered the royal guard and officers, "Come in and strike them down. Don't let any escape." So the royal guard and the officers struck them down with the sword and left their bodies laying there. Then they entered the inner sanctuary of the temple of Baal. They hauled up the sacred pillar of the temple of Baal and burned it. They demolished the sacred pillar of Baal and the temple of Baal. It is used as a latrine to this very day. So Jehu eradicated Baal worship from Israel. That is, that's some divine justice there. However, Jehu did not repudiate the sin that Jeroboam, son of Nahab, had encouraged to commit. The golden calves remained in Bethel in Dan. So he takes care of Baal, but he didn't take care of the golden calves. The Lord said to Jehu, "You have done well. You have accomplished my will and carried out my wishes with regard to Ahab's dynasty. Therefore, 4 generations of your descendants will rule over Israel." But Jehu did not carefully and wholeheartedly obey the Lord, the God of Israel. He did not repudiate the sins which Jeroboam had encouraged Israel to commit. Yeah, your efforts came to sewage, dude. Yeah. We will now throw you in the latrine. Oh, wait. You mean the old place where Baal worshipped? Yeah, it's now a latrine. In those days, the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel's territory. Hazael attacked their eastern border. He conquered all the land of Gilead, including the territory of Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, extending all the way from Aurora in the Arnon Valley through Gilead to Bashan. The rest of the events of Jehu's reign, including all his accomplishments and successors, are recorded in the scrolls of the annals of the kings of Israel. Jehu passed away and was buried in Samaria. His son Jehoaz replaced him as king. Jehu reigned over Israel for 28 years in Samaria. Sorry, I just want to look at my fish a second. They are all gathering together. I wondered if they just got fed. The feeder should go off around 10, so I'm not sure what they're doing. They're all just kind of sitting there. See, they're all just kind of like lurking around, but there could be a few pellets floating. It's kind of hard to see. It looks like it. So, yeah, they're going to start eating. That's what it is. They're waiting. They let them soak in a little water, get a little chewy. And not so crunchy, and then they must be eating. But you can see a lot of those smaller ones right now. See, I don't need anything on stream in the chat to distract me. I can be fully distracted at any moment, and sometimes out my window too. Okay. Hey, North Hill, how we doing, sir? How we doing, sire? We're to 2 Kings 11, my friend. 2 Kings 11. When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she was determined to destroy the entire royal line. So, Yehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, the sister of Ahaziah, took Ahaziah's son Joash and stole him away from the rest of the royal descendants who were to be executed. She hid him in his nurse, in the room where the bed's covers were stored. So he was hid from Athaliah and escaped execution. He hid out with his nurse in the Lord's temple for 6 years while Athaliah was ruling the land. So, Athaliah, the mother, is ruling the land. Okay, if you haven't looked at this and you don't know the kings of Israel, I put them over in my Discord. I put a copy of a list of all the kings. There are 20 kings in Israel. That's the northern kingdom. There are 20 kings in the southern kingdom. So in the divided kingdom, there's a total of 40 kings. You don't count Saul, you don't count David, you don't count Solomon. That's not divided kingdom. But in divided kingdom, there's a total of 40. There's also 2 illegitimate kings. There are also counted in that number. And there are 2 women who serve as king. Here is one of those stories. Athaliah serves as king. 1 woman in the northern territory does it. 1 woman in the southern territory does it. So, it's interesting, fascinating. The northern kingdom goes through their kings faster than the southern kingdom, but they get 20. They get 20 kings. In the 7th year, Jehoiada summoned the officers of the units of hundreds of the Carians and the royal bodyguard. What are the Carians? Carians were apparently a bodyguard, probably comprised of foreigners. Okay. They don't make kings like they used to. No, they don't. No, they don't. Well, the other thing in the northern kingdom is it's not one dynasty. You have a person taking over, and they take over by force, by killing everybody. And so in the southern kingdom, this is a threat to the royal line of David, but it's preserved. There's a preservation of the royal line of David that happened. Okay. He met with them in the Lord's temple. He made an agreement with them and made them swear an oath of allegiance in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. He ordered them, this is what you must do. 1/3 of the unit that is on duty during the Sabbath will guard the royal palace. Another 1/3 of you will be stationed at the foundation gate. still another third of you will be stationed at the gate behind the royal guard. So, like, he's getting the best of the loyalist soldiers together, and he's splitting them up. You will take your guard, or take turns guarding the palace. The 2 units who are off duty on the Sabbath will guard the Lord's temple and protect the king. You must surround the king. Each of you must hold his weapon in his hand. Whoever approaches your ranks must be killed. You must accompany the king wherever he goes. So this kid has been hidden for 6 years. How old is he? We'll find out perhaps in a minute. But he is devising a plan to allow for the anointing of the king to take place. And he's making sure the royal guard is prepped for whatever happens. The officers of the units of hundreds did just as I can't say that name right now. Jehoiada, the priest, ordered. I haven't seen his name in a while. Each of them took his men, those who were on duty during the Sabbath, as well as those who were off duty on the Sabbath, and reported to Jehoiada, the priest. Let me just go look that up. I'm just butchering it. So we're Q Kings 11. And I've said this before. I get screwed up when it's A-I-A. Like too many vowels. I need some other letters. Need some consonants. Vanna, I don't want all vowels. Wow, why does it keep getting 1 Kings? I think I keep typing 2. Jehoiada.
Strong's H 3077. Jehoiada.
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 Okay. Jehoiada. There we go. The priest gave the officers of the units of hundreds King David's spears and shields that were kept in the Lord's temple. So the ones off duty wouldn't have had weapons, but there are weapons in the temple, so he gives them. The royal bodyguard took their stations, each holding his weapon in his hand. They lined up from the south side of the temple to the north side and stood near the altar and the temple surrounding the king. Jehoiada led out the king's son and placed him and crowned and the royal insignia. Placed on him the crown and royal insignia. They proclaimed him king and poured olive oil on his head. They clapped their hands and cried, "Long live the king." When Athaliah heard the royal guard shout, she joined the crowd at the Lord's temple. Then she saw the king standing by the pillar according to custom. The king's officers stood beside the king with their trumpets, and all the people of the land were celebrating the blowing trumpets. Athaliah tore her clothes and screamed, "Treason! Treason!" Jehoiada the priest ordered the officers of the units of the hundreds who were in charge of the army, "Bring her outside the temple to the guards. Put to death by the sword anyone who follows her." The priest gave this order because he had decided she should not be executed in the Lord's temple. Yeah, we're not killing someone in the temple. Got to be outside. They seized her and took her into the precinct of the royal palace through the horses' entrance. There she was executed. That's an interesting phrasing, or interesting location. And they placed hands on her and sent her the way of the entrance of the horses, the houses of into the house of the king. So, weird way to enter, I'm guessing. Jehoiada then drew up a covenant between the Lord and the king's people, stipulating that they should be loyal to the Lord. All the people of the land went and demolished the temple of Baal. They smashed its altars and idols to bits. They killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altar. Jehoiada the priest then placed guards at the Lord's temple. He took the officers of the units of hundreds, the Carians, the royal bodyguard, and all the people of the land, and together they led the king down from the Lord's temple. They entered the royal palace through the gate of the royal bodyguard, as opposed to the horse gate. And the king sat down on the royal throne. All the people of the land celebrated, for the city had rest now that they had killed Athaliah with the sword in the royal palace. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. So, he must have been about a year old when he was hidden away. He was hidden away for 6 years. He is 7 years old. I know he's king and all. Yeah, I don't know if I want a 7-year-old being the ruler of a country. Just saying. Just saying. I'm not sure I want a 7-year-old to rule my country. Puppet king, maybe? Well, he's going to have royal advisors, and I think he's not going to be rash to do things. But, yeah, on some level, until he's older, he would be a surrogate king of sorts. In Yehu's 7th year, Jehoash became king. He reigned for 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Zibiah, who was from Beersheba. Jehoash did what the Lord approved all his days when Jehoiada the priest taught him. But the high places were not eliminated. The people continued to offer sacrifice and burn incense on the high places. So, he's doing what the priest tells him. Why didn't the priest tell him to eliminate those? They got rid of Baal, but they didn't get rid of the high places. Notice there's always something left undone, it appears. There's always something left undone to still ensnare the people. Jehoash said to the priest, I place at your disposal all the consecrated silver that has been brought to the Lord's temple. That's a fun emote. Including the silver collected from the census tax. The silver received... Oh, baby king, there we go. All the silver the people had voluntarily contributed to the Lord's temple. The priest should receive the silver they need from the treasury and repair the damage to the temple they discover. So he's like, hey, we got to fix this place up. It's been damaged. By the 23rd year of King Jehoash's reign, the priest had still not repaired the damage of the temple. So 23rd year of his reign. He's 30 years old now, and the temple hasn't been repaired. So King Joash summoned Jehoiada, the priest, along with other priests, and said to them, why have you not repaired the damage to the temple? Now take no more silver from the treasury unless you intend to use it to repair the damage. The priest agreed not to collect silver from the people and relieved themselves of personal responsibility for the temple repairs. So they've been collecting money for 23 years in the temple and not doing the work. Jehoiada the priest took a chest and drilled a hole in its lid. He placed it on the right side of the altar near the entrance to the Lord's temple. The priest who guarded the entrance would put into it all the silver brought to the Lord's temple. When they saw the chest was full of silver, the royal secretary and the high priest counted the silver that they had brought to the Lord's temple and bagged it up. They would then hand over the silver to be weighed to the construction foreman assigned to the Lord's temple. They hired carpenters and builders to work on the Lord's temple, as well as masons and stone cutters. They bought wood and chiseled stones to repair the damage of the Lord's temple and also paid for all the other expenses. The silver brought to the Lord's temple was not, the silver brought to the Lord is not used for the silver bowls, trimming shears, basins, trumpets, or any kind of silver implements. it was handed over to the foreman who used it to repair the Lord's temple. They did not audit the treasurers who dispersed the funds to the foreman, for they were honest. Okay, the foreman's honest. They don't have to count anything. The silver collected in conjunction with reparations, offerings, and sin offerings was not brought to the Lord's temple. It belonged to the priest. Okay, so maybe there's something going on. Maybe it just wasn't enough. The king didn't have enough, so it's like, okay, fine, you're not going to give us more. We're going to start collecting it ourselves. And so maybe they weren't dishonest. But like it feels like it took you 23 years and you're not done. It doesn't feel like Solomon took 23 years. It took 12 years to build it, if I remember. Or no, 6 years to build it, 7 years to build his house. So why would repairs take 23 years? You know? I don't know. Something is sus. I'm not sure what. At that time, King Hazael of Syria attacked Gath and captured it. Hazael then decided to attack Jerusalem. King Jehoash of Judah collected all the sacred items that his ancestor Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, and Ahaziah, kings of Judah, had consecrated, as well as his own sacred items, and all the gold that could be found in the treasury of the Lord's temple and the royal palace. He sent it all to King Hazael of Syria, who then withdrew from Jerusalem. Dude, why? Why are you paying him off? And notice, it was the sacred items and the consecrated items, not general generic stuff. Yeah, doesn't it sound sus? Like, why aren't you inquiring of God? Why are you paying this dude off? I'm not liking this. The rest of the events of Joash's reign, including all his accomplishments, are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Judah. His servants conspired against him and murdered Joash in Beth Milo, on the road that goes down to Silla. His servant Jozabad, son of Shimeath, and Jehozabad, son of... Okay, Jozabad and Jehozabad. Okay, just making sure. Of Shomer murdered him. He was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Amaziah replaced him as king. Weird. In the 23rd year of the reign of Judah, King Joash, son of Ahaziah, Jehu's son, Jehoazab, became king over Israel. He reigned in Samaria for 17 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He continued in the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had encouraged Israel to sin. He did not repudiate their sin. The Lord was furious with Israel and handed them over to King Hazael of Syria, to Hazael's son Ben-Hadad, for many years. Jehoaz asked for the Lord's mercy, and the Lord responded favorably, for he saw that Israel was oppressed by the king of Syria. The Lord provided a deliverer for Israel. This sounds like the Judges. And they were freed from Syria's power. The Israelites once more lived in security, but they did not repudiate the sinful ways of the family of Jeroboam, who encouraged Israel to sin. They continued in those sins. They were even an Asherah pole standing in Samaria. Jehoaz had no army left except for 50 horsemen, 10 chariots, 10,000 foot soldiers. The king of Syria had destroyed his troops and trampled them to little tiny bits. They trampled them to dust. Which is interesting that dust is here, and dust is what was taken back with Naaman. Just saying. But look here. He had no army left, except. Okay, so sometimes we get the hyperbole and the exception, and sometimes we just get the hyperbole. The rest of the events of Jehoaz's reign, including all his accomplishments and successes, are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Jehoaz passed away and was buried in Samaria. His son Jehoash replaced him as king. Jehoaz and Jehoash. Interesting names. In the 37th year of King Jehoash reign over Judah, Jehoaz, son Jehoash, oh yes, two guys, same name, one king of Israel, one king of Judah. Yeah, that's got to be confusing. They're at the same time. Became king over Israel. He reigned in Samaria for 16 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. He continued in those sins. The rest of the events of Jehoash's reign, including all his accomplishments and his successful war with King Amaziah of Judah, are recorded in the scroll called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Jehoash passed away, and Jeroboam succeeded him on the throne. Jehoash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Well, these ones are fun, like, we gotta mention the king, and the king took power, and then the king died. But the king did some stuff, and you can read about it in some other book that you don't have a copy of, and you'll never know about, but it's there. It was written, and he did it, and BT Dubs, we're moving on. I mean, isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Now, Elisha had a terminal illness. We're finally back to Elisha. We had a whole bunch of Elisha. Now we've had a whole bunch of kings. And now I want to check this. Terminal ill. Now, Elisha was ill with the illness by which he would die. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we can call it a terminal illness. That's fine. King Jehoash of Israel went to visit him. He wept before him and said, my father, the chariot and horsemen of Israel. Elisha told him, take a bow and some arrows, and he did so. Then Elisha told the king of Israel, aim the bow. He did so, and Elisha placed his hand on the king's hands. Elisha said, open the east window, and he did so. Elisha said, shoot, and he did so. Elisha said, this arrow symbolizes the victory the Lord will give you over Syria. You will annihilate Syria in Aphek. Then Elisha said, take the arrows, and he did so. Okay, I know that's repetitious, but the kings of Israel were not known for obedience. So after every step of the way, we're being ensured this king's obeying. He told the king of Israel, strike the ground. He struck the ground 3 times and stomped. The prophet got angry at him and said, if you had struck the ground 5 or 6 times, you would have annihilated Syria. But now you will defeat Syria only 3 times. Okay, he's only told to strike the ground. I'm thinking I would have struck the ground once. I would have struck the ground once. Why would I strike it more than that? He just said strike the ground. Why would I do it repeatedly? I didn't have instructions to do that. Now, maybe there is something in the word here and the verb tense that would have that. Let me see. 3 Kings 13. I don't think I'm going to find that there, but we'll look. But I know I said 3 kings. It's 2 kings. Verse 18. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, what? Lurking in some other stream? Deleted partially. Yeah. Smite unto the ground. Okay. Naka. Okay, what is this going to tell me here? It is a verb. It's an imperative. It's second person. It's in the Hiphil stem. Okay.
Strong's H 5221. Nacha. Nacha.
Okay, so to smite, to strike, to beat, to scourge, to slap, applaud, that would be an ongoing thing. Give a thrust, smite, kill, slay, beat, smite, attack, attack, destroy, subjugate, ravage, to smite, chasten. If you're going with chasten, you might get with a repeated blow. Send judgment upon, punish, destroy. Okay, so there might be something in the usage of it that would allow for the idea of striking repeatedly. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Because this one's always puzzled me. Like, if you just struck it 5 or 6 times, you'd have totally annihilated. I told you you're going to totally annihilate him. You were obedient to all these things, but you lacked here at the end. I still don't... Anyway, I'm still unsure on that. It just feels weird. Elisha died and was buried. Moab raiding parties invaded the land at the beginning of the year. One day, some men were burying a man when they spotted a raiding party. So they threw the dead man into Elisha's tomb. When the body touched Elisha's bone, the dead man came to life and stood on his feet. Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, why didn't you tell me I was supposed to do it more? I'd have done it more. I was being obedient to the literal what you were saying. Yeah, communicate. Yeah, that's why I went to look up the word. Maybe there's something implied. Like, for instance, if I said pulverize the ground, one hit ain't doing it, you know? Or pummel. You could pummel once, but pummeling, feels more repetitious. Maybe the word smite does have some of that in the Hebrew context. So he does obey by hitting it a few times, but he doesn't overdo it. I don't know. Like, I feel like he's being judged for it, but I feel like there was a communicate piece there that he wasn't clear on, because, like, he tells Naaman to go wash in the Jordan 7 times. Here he says if you'd hit the ground 5 or 6, 5 being the Torah, 6 being man, why not 7? Like, if I was thinking and I got instructions to hit the ground, to strike the ground, I don't know. Maybe I should do 7 to make sure I completely hit the ground. Anyway, here's a weird story. A dude that's dead gets tossed in Elisha's tomb because there's a raiding party going on, and they got a skedaddle. They hide the dead man. He comes back to life. What I want to know now is why this isn't become a practice of anytime someone's dead. Hey, let's go get Elijah. Or Elisha. Let's go throw him on Elisha's bones. Can't do Elijah. He left. Elisha's bones. Let's just start making this a place where you bring the dead and you throw, they touch Elisha's bones and then come back to life. I think there's a level of his power that is left, and maybe the one dude took all of it. Why we don't hear more stories of it. Now, King Hazael of Syria oppressed Israel throughout Jehoahaz's reign, but the Lord had mercy on them and felt pity for them. He extended his favor to them because of the promise he had made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He has been unwilling to destroy them or remove them from the presence to this very day. When King Hazael of Syria died, his son Ben-Hadad replaced him as king. Jehoahaz, son of Jehoash, took back from Ben-Hadad, son of Hazael, the cities that he had taken from his father Jehoahaz in war. Jehoash defeated him 3 times and recovered the Israelite cities. I think this is one of those rare times when they opt to not test God. Oh, perhaps. Perhaps. But I'm just thinking as a reader of this, whenever it is later, if I happen to know where Elisha's tomb is and Elisha's bones, and someone dies, I might be bringing him there to touch the bones again. But this also goes to New Testament affirmation of power when the garment is touched by the woman who is bleeding, and later the shadow of Peter heals people. Those aren't resurrections, but there's still a level of some of that going on there. The second year of the reign of Israel, King Joash, son of Jehoaz, Joash, son of Amaziah, became king over Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign. I like that better than a 7-year-old, just saying. And he reigned for 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Jehoadan, who was from Jerusalem. He did what the Lord approved, but not like David, his ancestor, had done. He followed the example of his father Joash. But the high places were not eliminated. The people continued to offer sacrifices and burn incense at the high places. So you can be doing good, but you don't do all the good you can do all the time. You can do good. If you do, you get David comparison. If you don't, you get your father that did good. When he had secured control of the kingdom, he executed the servants who had assassinated his father. But he did not execute the sons of the assassins. He obeyed the Lord's command in recording, as recorded in the scroll of Moses. Fathers must not be put to death for what their sons do, and sons must not be put to death for what their fathers do. A man must be put to death only for his own sin. Interesting they're throwing this in here. Interesting they're throwing this in here. Because his father was the one that escaped and was able to be on the throne. So he doesn't continue that course of retribution of kill everybody. He defeated 10,000 Edomites in the Salt Valley. He captured Selah in battle and renamed it Joktheel, a name it has retained to this very day. Then Amaziah sent messengers to Joash, son of Jehoaz, son of Jehu, king of Israel. He said, "Come, let's meet face to face." King Joash of Israel sent the message back to King Amaziah of Judah. "A thorn bush in Lebanon sent this message to a cedar in Lebanon. Give your daughter to my son as a wife." Then a wild animal of Lebanon came by and trampled down the thorn. You thoroughly defeated Edom, and it has gone to your head. Gloat over your success, but stay in your place. Why bring calamity on yourself? Why bring down yourself and Judah along with you? But Amaziah would not heed the warning, so King Jehoash of Israel attacked. He and King Amaziah of Judah met face to face in Beth Shemesh of Judah. Judah was defeated by Israel, and each man ran back home. King Joash of Israel captured King Amaziah of Judah, son of Jehoash, son of Ahaziah, in Beth Shemesh. He attacked Jerusalem and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, a distance of 600 feet. So the wall has a giant hole now. He took away all the gold and silver, all the items found in the Lord's temple, and the treasuries of the royal palace, and some hostages. Then he went back to Samaria. Like, dude, why you coming against, why you want me? Like, no, let's meet face to face. Okay, so it sounded to me in that let's meet face to face like it was let's have peace. The king reads it as let's meet face to face. I'm calling you out. Let's battle. And he's like, dude, you're gloating. You're going to be punished. And he comes and he puts him in his place. The rest of the events of Joash's reign, including all his accomplishments and a successful war with King Amaziah of Judah, are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Jehoash passed away and was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. His son Jeroboam replaced him as king. King Amaziah, son of Joash of Judah, lived for 15 years after the death of Jehoash, son of Jehoaz of Israel. The rest of the events of Amaziah's reign are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Judah. Conspirators plotted against him in Jerusalem, so he fled to Lachish. But they sent assassins after him, and they killed him there. His body was carried back by horses, and he was buried in Jerusalem with his ancestors in the city of David. All the people of Judah took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in his father Amaziah's place. Azariah built up Elat and restored it in Judah after the king had passed away. He seemed a bit double-minded in that he did not kill the son for the father's wrong, etc., but he killed the Edomites. Yeah, well, he attacked them. The Edomites aren't in Israel, so you're right, though. There's a little bit of double-mindedness there. Yeah, the Edom thing is Esau and Jacob, yes. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So there's ongoing feud back and forth that still continued. In the 15th year of the reign of Judah's king Amaziah, son of Joash, Jeroboam, son of Joash, became king over Israel. He reigned 41 years in Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. He restored the border of Israel from Lebo Hamath in the north to the sea of the Rift Valley in the south, just as the message from the Lord God of Israel that he had announced to the servant Jonah, son of Amittai, the prophet from Gath-Hepher. The Lord saw Israel's intense suffering. Everyone was weak and incapacitated, and Israel had no deliverer. The Lord did not decree that he would blot out Israel's memory from under heaven. So he delivered them through Jeroboam, son of Joash. Interesting. So we have a couple of references here now suddenly to they need a deliverer from what's going on, which sounds like a whole bunch of what we saw in Book of Judges. The rest of the events of Jeroboam's reign, including all his accomplishments, his military success in restoring Israel's control over Damascus and Hamath, are recorded in the scroll called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Jeroboam passed away and was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. His son Zechariah replaced him as king. In the 27th year of King Jeroboam's reign over Israel, Amaziah, son of Azariah, became king over Judah. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jechaliah. That's a name. Who was from Jerusalem. Okay, Jechaliah and Hyde. Jechaliah. God is what? What is it going to be? Verse 2.
Strong's H3203.
God is able.
Yahileah. Yahileah. Second entry. Yahuliah. Yahuliah. Third entry. Yahuliahu.
Hey, sunshine.
Yahuliahu.
Yecholiahu. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my Jechaliah. Yecholiu. Okay. He did what the Lord approved, just as his father Amaziah had done. But the high places were not eliminated. The people continued to offer sacrifices and burn incense on the high places. The Lord afflicted the king with an illness. He suffered from a skin disease until he died. He lived in separate quarters while his son Jotham was in charge of the palace and ruled over the people of the land. So, interesting. He gets a skin disease, but he's king. He doesn't get to have to leave he just has isolation, quarantine. The rest of the events of Azariah's reign, including all his accomplishments, are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Judah. Azariah passed away and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Jotham replaced him as king. So all we know in this story is the king reigns for rules 41 years. He gets a skin disease, has to live in separate quarters, and he lets his son Jotham reign in his place. Okay. And, like, that's got to be the weirdest one of the stories. Like, yeah, let's just tell you who was king, and they became king, and then they did a lot of stuff, but we're not going to tell you about it, but he died. Oh, he had a skin disease. BT dubs. BT dubs. In the 38th year of King Azariah's reign over Judah, Jeroboam, son of Zechariah, became king over Israel. He reigned in Samaria for 6 whole months. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, as his ancestors had done. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. Shallum, son of Jabesh, conspired against him. Okay, so remember, Jehu was promised four-person dynasty. We're at the end of the 4-person dynasty. Jabesh conspired against him. He assassinated him in Ibleam and took his place as king. The rest of the events of Zechariah's reign are recorded in the scrolls of the Annals of the King of Israel. His assassination fulfilled the Lord's message to Jehu. 4 generations of your descendants will rule on Israel's throne. And that's how it happened. Mic drop. 6 months, buddy. Shallum, son of Jabesh, became king in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign over Judah. He reigned for a whole month in Samaria. Menahem, son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah to Samaria and attacked Shallum, son of Jabesh. He killed him and took him his place as king. The rest of the events of Shallum's reign, the whole entire month, including the conspiracy he organized, are recorded in the scrolls called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. At that time, Menahem came from Tirzah and attacked Tifshah. He struck down all who lived in the city and the surrounding territory because they would not surrender. He even ripped open pregnant women. That's just heinous. In the 39th year of King Azariah's reign over Judah, Menahem, son of Gadi, became John Gotti, became king over Israel. He reigned for 10 years in Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. Okay, I want to go look up Gotti here. So, verse 17. It sounds like Wadi, which is like a ravine. But, I mean, Gadi, my fortune.
Strong's H 1424.
I ruled
Gadi.
for a fortnight and a
Gadi.
tiny bit extra. Yes, a fortnight. Very nice. He ruled for 2 fortnights. And a day. During his reign, Paul, P-U-L, king of Assyria, invaded the land, and Menahem paid him 1,000 talents of silver to gain his support and to solidify his control of the country. Menahem got the silver by taxing all the wealthy men of Israel. He took 50 shekels of silver from each of them and paid it to the king of Assyria. Then the king of Assyria left. He did not stay there in the land. The rest of the events of Menahem's reign, including all his accomplishments, are recorded in the scroll called the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Menahem passed away, and his son Pekahiah replaced him as king. Pekahiah, what a name. In the 15th year of King Azariah, reigned over Judah. Menahem's son Pekahiah became king over Israel. He reigned in Samaria for 2 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. His officer, Pekah, son of Remaliah, conspired against him. He and 50 Gileadites assassinated Pekahiah, and well as Argob and Arai in Samaria in the fortress of the royal palace. Pekah then took his place as king. The rest of the events of Pekahiah's reign, including all the accomplishments, are recorded in the scrolls of the annals of the kings of Israel. I know this is like repetition, but I like to read them back to back because it sounds like no change. Change the leader, things remain the same. Change the leader, things remain the same. Maybe we should learn the lesson of not putting our faith in the leaders to change things. In the 52nd year of King Azariah reign over Judah, Pekah, son of Remaliah, became king over Israel. He reigned in Samaria for 20 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not repudiate the sinful ways of Jeroboam of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. During Pekah's reign over Israel, King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria came and captured Ijon, Abel-Beth-Maach, Janoah, Kedesh, Hazor, Gilead, and Galilee. Ooh, we know that town, including the territory of Naphtali. He deported the people to Assyria. Aha! We have deportation now. Okay, we're finally getting a change of things that are happening. Hoshea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekah, son of Remaliah. He assassinated him and took his place as king in the 20th year of the reign of Jotham, son of Uzziah. The rest of the events of Pekah's reign, including all his accomplishments, are recorded in the scrolls, the annals of the king of Israel. Okay, I know it said ad break, so let me know when we get back where we left off. Sorry, I'm flipping a few things around. Okay, I think you guys should be back for the ad break. Let me know if you're not. Well, if you're not, you can't let me know. Haha. Oh, and I should silence that. All right, so we should be back from the ad break. Give me a thumbs up on that, somebody, if you're back from the ad break, if you have an ad. So we're just about going to finish for today. I just kind of like we're getting to the end of Israel. In the 2nd year of the reign of Israel's king Pekah, son of Remaliah, Uzziah, son of Jotham, became king over Judah. You're back, sis? Awesome. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Okay, we have a woman again. Mother was Jerusha. I wasn't ha-haing people stuck in the ad. No. I was ha-haing the anyway. Verse 33. I wouldn't do that. I get stuck in ads all the time. Yerusha sounds like Jerusalem.
Strong's H 3388. Yerusha. Yerusha.
So,
Second entry.
my bad.
Yerusha. Yerusha.
Sounds like you pronounce it exactly the same. I don't hear a difference. Deposer. So you depose someone. Or disposer over here. You know, there's that poser and there's disposer over here. Okay, so his mother is a deposer, the daughter of Zadok. He did what the Lord approved, just as his father Uzziah had done. But the high places were not eliminated. The people continued to offer sacrifices and burnt incense on the high places. He built the upper gate of the Lord's temple. The rest of the events of Jotham's reign, including his accomplishments, are recorded in the scrolls of the annals of the king of Judah. In those days, the Lord prompted King Rezin of Syria and Pekah, son of Ramallah, to attack Judah. Jotham passed away and was buried with his ancestors in the city of his ancestor David. His son Ahaz replaced him as king. Oh, I just want to scroll a second. Okay. How many chapters are there in 2 Kings? Okay, so we're at 16. We got a few more to do. Okay. Gonna call that a day. So, bum, bum, bum. Right, 2 Kings 16 down here. Oh, sorry, 2 Kings 15. Why? I do not know why this is happening today. I keep saying 2. I keep thinking I'm typing 2, and it keeps typing 1. My finger must be dyslexic or something. I will have to enter all of that info to get us caught up. I don't know where we're at. I'm just guessing here. And I put them below today's reading. Actually, I can do this real quick. I will let us know where today's reading should be. How close we are. Today's reading would be 2 Kings 23 and 24. 2 Kings 23 and 24. And starting the book of Romans. So we're pretty close on that. So I think Monday we will see how far we get in 2 Kings, and Tuesday we'll start the book of Romans. We started the book of Romans on Tuesday, everybody. That should be fun. Before we go, let me just promo this one more time. If it'll open. ReachCon. ReachCon. If you want to participate, if you'd like to go, there are going to be a bunch of people down in Orlando. 20 of these people have committed at this point to being there. I do know Susie Live has committed to being there. I'm going to guess a lot of these others will be there as well. You know what? Is Underrated Zane a new one? I don't remember seeing him in here before. Maybe it's just a new photo. I don't know. But here's a bunch of people. At least 20 of them have committed to being there. Some may not be there. But there'll be IRL meetups. There'll be games you can play. All at the conference. All the food included. Chances to win a computer. 3 computers given away to people showing up. There's a bunch of speakers that'll be there doing stuff as well. A guy from Coca-Cola, a guy from Intel, the gal from The Chosen is there. So you can go check out all of who's going to be there. There's plenty of people who are going to be there. It should be a great time. If you'd like to go, click on the tickets, get the tickets, use Dapper as the code, you get free tickets. If you're not going to go, then don't. That's okay. I know not everybody can make it. You'd still have to, even though the free tickets, you'd still have to pay for a place to be there, and you would still have to travel there. So I know that's not going to be easy for everybody, but if you live close enough and you could drive, it'd definitely be awesome to see you, even if you can't be there the whole time. So, anything else I was thinking of sharing? Oh, update on my mom's neighbor. He's been moved to a rehab hospital. So he's doing rehab. He's making tremendous progress after being in the car accident. So, yay God, all over the place on that. It's pretty amazing, his recovery at this point. And the doctors have even said to him before he moved, you are making amazing progress. You must have a lot of people praying for you. I'm going, oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people praying for him, that's for sure. So, all right. Thank you all for hanging out, being in here, being with us as we roll through. And this king did very little and nothing of significant, except he died in a horrendous way, and you should know that. And therefore, we move on to the next guy. So, such a blessing. Hey, thank you for hanging out, North Hill. Appreciate that, friend. Appreciate that. All right. Let me send you off with a blessing. May God's seeking comfort find you. May his loving arms bind you. May his might protect you. May his wisdom direct you. May the joyous love of Jesus Christ be with you and all those you know, both now and forevermore. Amen. Amen. So let's head on out. Let's find someone. King did little. Yes.
Pastor, dashing through pages, Chronicles, Gospels, Prophets, Sages, Leviticus, laws to Paul's fine phrases, turning them corners, no spiritual mazes, Genesis to Revelation, self-divine, flipping scripts, endless grace you'll find, Psalm singing sweet unbroken lines, hitting that rhythm, wordplay refined. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Bible in 1 year, we don't rest. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Wake up early, the dawn's light shimmers. Spiritual breakfast, soul food dinners. Isaiah's vision, Ezekiel's figures. Walk through the fire, no one limbers. Kings and judges, prophets profound. Plow in the word, no mythical ground. Verse after verse, wisdom's bound. Heavenly soundtrack, soul's urban sound. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Bible in 1 year, we don't rest. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. No shortcuts, all divine routes. Listen to the whispers, no room for doubt. Parables drop stronger than gold faucets. Souls hydrated from divine prophets. Study the book, change perspectives. Carefully crafted, not too subjective. A year to reflect, learn and perfect. Patterns of grace that time can't deflect. Old Testament drops, deep and so real. Kings and warriors, covenant seals. Split that Red Sea, divine reveal. Commandments written, not made of steel. Bethlehem birthed a cross on the hill. Unfolding the lessons, pastor with skill. Scripture flipped, every verse fulfilled. From Eden's garden to Jerusalem's thrill. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Bible in 1 year, we don't rest. Anybody in here blessed? I'm blessed. Wake up early, the dawn's light shimmers. Spiritual breakfast, soul food dinners. Isaiah's vision, Ezekiel's figures. Walk through the fire, no one limbers. Kings and judges, prophets profound. Plow in the word, no mythical ground. Verse after verse, wisdom's bound. Heavenly soundtrack. track, soul's urban sound. I'm blessed. No shortcuts, all divine routes. Listen to the whispers, I'm blessed.